I just pressed the let's go live button. And so let's wait for the stream to fire up all across the fruited plain of the internet before we go ahead and get started. We got to make sure the tubes are working. You know, sometimes the tubes are not working and I'm just sitting here like, oh, welcome to the show. And like, there's nobody there. It's like, ugh, what a doofus. So it looks like it is working. That's tremendous news. Let's go ahead and get started, shall we? Hello, my friends, and welcome back to yet another episode of Watching the Watchers Live. My name is Robert Gouveia. I am a criminal defense attorney broadcasting from the Valley of the Sun deep in downtown Phoenix, Arizona. And today we are talking about the end game. We've been waiting a long time for this, and now it is here. The federal charges have been filed. Donald Trump has been indicted. We were live when this broke yesterday on the live stream. And so if you fast forward all the way to the end of that stream, I have it marked as a time code on YouTube and elsewhere, and it is now a clip. But we covered Trump's initial reaction there when he posted the 3 different truth socials about what happened. He got a summons in the mail. He's been required to appear on Tuesday next week in the District of Miami federal court. And we've been long suspecting this was going to be happening. I know some other people were saying that this is maybe coming later or not coming at all. And I think the timing is really good. I mean, we had the FD 1023 form that got dropped on Congress yesterday that the Oversight Committee was really excited to talk about. And now that's just gone. Nobody's even talking about that at all because they layered on the indictment right after the fact. And as we rewind on it, it leads me to believe that maybe they were colluding with one another. Maybe the FBI was dragging their feet on giving the document until there was an indictment ready to go, and they just layered them on one right after the other. But we know that they're in the end game because this is the most serious set of charges that have come out. The federal charges, I think, are going to be the set of charges that are backed by the entire federal government, right? And you can't understate what a massive Goliath this thing is. It's just absurd. And that's a little bit different than what Alvin Bragg's doing in his little New York, Manhattan office, or what Fani Willis is doing in her Georgia office. These are a different caliber of prosecutions. This is the big one. And we know that Trump has a lot of fragilities, a lot of risk, not necessarily in the Florida case, because I do believe he's also going to be charged out of DC. It's just a matter of time until that one comes as well. I think we'll see 2 separate cases, one about the classified documents, because most of that happened in Florida. It will be jurisdictionally in Florida. And then we also are going to see a separate batch of prosecutions, a whole separate set of indictments out of DC related to January 6th and that whole debacle. And they're going to do that so that they've got eggs in 2 separate baskets, not all in one. And they also have the DC jury and the DC judges. And this is going to be, I think, a case where they are not treating Trump as like he's a presidential candidate or a former president. They're holding him to an entirely different set of standards. Hillary Clinton gets away with whatever she wants. Barack Obama, or in this case, Joe Biden and his son Hunter, get away with whatever they want. We know that there were other classified documents with Obama and others, and Mike Pence had them, but Trump is the outsider. So he gets skewered while the others do not. And the federal system, I think, has been waiting for this moment. And even though Florida, we might have some good things that we can talk about here today, this is an indicator that they are going on this, right? They are crossing the Rubicon. They've decided, all right, let's do this thing. Precedent be damned. It's go time. They are in the end game. And so here we're going to talk a lot about that. What is happening in all of this? Trump responded to the indictment yesterday, dropped a 4-minute video. We'll parse through that in detail. Now, some people are wondering, is he melting down over there? What's going on in Mar-a-Lago? So we're going to go over to Alina Habba. She's going to explain exactly what happened. Turns out Trump was DJing over there at Mar-a-Lago, getting his groove on, baby. So we'll go through that story. Now, I want to detail a little bit about what's landing at the federal courthouse in Miami. You see, we've got a photograph of that. We're going to take a look at what happened at the court system. Apparently, the whole system went down yesterday as everybody was piling in to try to learn what happened. We also are going to go through the various charges. There is rumors about what they are, 7 of them. And Trump's lawyer, James Trusty, gave us some details on them. We'll go through some of them in a little bit more detail, but look at all these maximum charges: 20 years, 20 years, 5 years, 5 years, 10 years, boom, boom, boom. Stack them all up, might be facing 100 years. Now, the judge who got assigned to this is Judge Aileen Cannon. You may remember her from this channel. She made many appearances when we were talking about Trump and the special master. Remember when Trump's team said, you can't come raid my documents in my house? I'm the president, and I want a special master separate from a special counsel who is going to be somebody who is managing the process. And Judge Cannon was like, yeah, the DOJ, you guys are pretty disgusting here. Everything that we've seen is rotten. And she called them out, and then the DOJ appealed it to a higher court that they have much more, control over, and they smacked it back down and said, Cannon, you can't do those things, And so we're going to be talking about technical violations of the law and problems in the prosecution of the crimes and which ones are taking precedent, right? You could, as we note and talk a lot about here, you could indict a ham sandwich. The question is, are there enough areas where there were prosecutorial misconduct claims or other holes in the government's case that can be exploited for the defense? Because we know how one-sided this institution called the DOJ and the circuit court system will be as this progresses. So we're also going to hear from Kash Patel. He's going to break some stories for us about Karen Gilbert. She's a DOJ prosecutor who has all sorts of problems. And I was able to pull up an article about her where she and a colleague were doing some pretty serious unethical things in a prior case. Then we've got a little bit of heavy lifting to do. This is James Trusty. This is Trump's lawyer. And he was on with CNN last night explaining exactly what happened. And this is an interesting segment because he walks us through some of the various charges that he says showed up on the summons, in particular these 18 U.S. Code 793, which is possession of defense information. I want to review that statute with you. And then I want to talk about this CNN transcript. Allegedly, they've got audio that would implicate this criminal statute. So there's really three big categories of crimes: espionage, obstruction, and false statement, that Jim Trusty walks us through. And I've got some clips and some excerpts from the law that we'll do some analysis on. We have a lot of reaction from the GOP, and I've been clipping hard on all of these people. We're going to hear what McCarthy said, what Gaetz said. We got a great statement from Vivek. We got Ron DeSantis responding, Tim Scott, Josh Hawley, JD Vance, Romney came out. Oh gosh, we're going to read that one. And then we've got, it's Rubio, and so a lot of the GOP are going to come out of the woodwork very conveniently. Oh yeah, I better put out a Twitter statement on the weaponization of the DOJ. These people have been asleep at the wheel for the last, 7 years. And now they're going to come out and say, well, the country's getting to a bad problem now all of a sudden. All right. So we'll go through that. Now, the House GOP responded, and we've got a couple clips from the left, including from Maddow and from Schifty Schiff. And Trump's team is not just standing by waiting for all this to happen. They've actually filed a misconduct claim against this guy, Department of Justice prosecutor called Jay Bratt. And we've heard a lot about him. The allegations are that he put pressure on a witness called Walt Naudo, who apparently was Trump's kind of valet, but he's personal assistant for a while. And apparently they were sitting there with the DOJ. He had his lawyer there, this guy Stanley Woodward. And this prosecutor essentially threatened Walt, said, you better turn and go against your boss, Trump, or else you may not get this judgeship that we know you want. So very disgusting behavior coming out of the DOJ. Not a surprise, just, gosh. All right, so we also have a clip from Ashley Moody, Attorney General from Florida. And so as you can see, my friends, we've got, look at this. Look at all this. Just a lot to get to. Woo! It's going to be good. And of course, if you want to be a part of the show, we'd love it if you joined our amazing community, either at watchingthewatchers.locals.com, which is our home base. We have a lot of amazing people over there. Or you can join as a member on YouTube, and you get all sorts of extra good stuff. We do extra member-only streams very regularly. We do Saturday shows, so we'll see you on the weekends. We'd love it if you joined us, watchingthewatchers.locals.com. mindmaprecap.com, or click join and become a member on YouTube. You get a lot of the same stuff as well. And so, my friends, before we get into all of this today, it's a Friday and we got to make sure we're nutrified as we go into the weekend. And we all would like to be healthy. You know, it's summertime. We all like to lose some of those leftover pandemic pounds. You know, I get it. But how sick are you, though? I mean, all these ads for weight loss pills and fad diets, they're all over the place. You know, we've all been there. We've all tried them. Okay. They don't work, though. You know what does? Eating 5 healthy servings of fruits and vegetables every day. You do that, and the weight would probably just fall right off. But look, vegetables, not a fan. And fruit, who's got time to prepare that every day? It's a lot of calories too, honestly, the fruit. But let's talk about Field of Greens instead. Now, Field of Greens is a science-backed formula, very specific nutrients that you're not going to find in any other product. Proper nutrition reboots your metabolism so you burn calories faster and lose weight the healthier way. And Field of Greens is the only brand backed by a better health promise. Yes, you'll look and feel healthier fast. But the greater proof comes at your next checkup when you go in there and your doctor takes one look at you and he says, wow, you've lost weight. Whatever you're doing, keep it up. So let's get you started. No reason to wait at all. Go on over to fieldofgreens.com. And when you check out, load up your cart with all these goodies. You're going to be healthy. You're going to be bursting with green energy. Don't forget to use code Robert so you can save that 15% off at checkout, baby. And remember, the vegetables want to be eaten. When you get your Field of Greens, you're going to be bursting with green energy, the good kind. And so we want you to be healthy and well. But all right, my friends. Now, let's get in to the meat and potatoes on the day. Donald Trump indicted, and he responds. 4-minute post that he shared on True Social. We are going to go through it. But after the indictment was announced, we also had a lot of Trump allies and Trump lawyers hitting the airwaves to explain exactly what is going on here. We're going to check in with Alina Habba. Some people saying Trump must be devastated. Maybe not. Looks like he was actually DJing. And then we've got Kash Patel, who's going to start framing out for us some of the defense, one of which is prosecutorial misconduct, alleging that DOJ prosecutors like Karen Gilbert were highly involved in unethical things. We've also got an update on the courthouse and the judge who is rumored to be assigned on Tuesday when Trump goes in there for the arraignment, Judge Aileen. And so we've got some background on her because we've talked a lot about her here on this channel. And so much to get into. This is Trump responding to the announcement of the indictment. Here's what he said.
Very sadly, we're a nation in decline, and yet they go after a popular president, a president that got more votes than any sitting president in the history of our country, by far, and did much better the second time in the election than the first. And they go after him on a boxes hoax, just like the Russia hoax and all of the others. It's been going on for 7 years, as they can't stop, because it's election interference at the highest level. There's never been anything like what's happened. I'm an innocent man. I'm an innocent person. They had the Mueller hoax, the Mueller report, and that came out. No collusion after 2.5 years. That was set up by Hillary Clinton and Democrats. But this is what they do. This is what they do so well. If they would devote their energies to honesty and integrity, it would be a lot better for our country. They could do a lot better. They could do a lot of great things. But when you look at what's happened to our country in the last 3 years, we were energy independent. We had a strong military that wasn't woke. We were doing so well. We were respected all over the world. We got the biggest tax cuts in history, biggest regulation cuts in history. And what do? You have a president where an election was taken, got more votes than any sitting president in history by far, never anything even close. And they come after me because now we're leading in the polls again by a lot, against Biden and against the Republicans by a lot. But we're leading against Biden by a lot, a tremendous amount. And we went up to a level that they figure the way they're going to stop us is by using what's called warfare. And that's what it is. This is warfare for the law. And we can't let it happen. We can't let it happen. Our country is going to hell. And they come after Donald Trump, weaponizing the Justice Department, weaponizing the FBI. We can't let this continue to go on because it's ripping our country to shreds. We have such big problems, and this shouldn't be one of them. It's a hoax. The whole thing is a hoax, just like Russia, just like the fake dossier was a hoax. You saw the Durham report. You saw the Mueller report. It was all a big hoax. You had 2 impeachments, and they lost and we won. And we had tremendous support. But that was a hoax and a scam. And now they're doing it again. It's just a continuation, 7 years, even after I'm out. But it's called election interference. They're trying to destroy a reputation so they can win an election. That's just as bad as doing any of the other things that have been done over the last number of years, and especially during the 2020 election. So I just want to tell you, I'm an innocent man. I did nothing wrong. And we will fight this out just like we've been fighting for 7 years. It would be wonderful if we could devote our full time to making America great again. And that's exactly what we did. But now, again, our country is in decline. We're a failing nation. And this is what they do. I'm an innocent man. We will prove that again. 7 years of proving it. And here we go again. Very unfair. But that's the way it is. I just want to thank everybody. We are doing something very special for our country. We're putting America first. I always put America first. And that's why we were in a position. Unfortunately, that position is no longer valid because they've done such a poor job. But we're in a position where we're going to make America great again. I'm innocent, and we will prove that very, very soundly and hopefully very quickly. Thank you very much.
We know he's innocent. He knows he's innocent. The DOJ knows he's innocent. There are different reasons why this is happening. I think the most obvious is because he is a political opponent of the establishment, of the deep state, of the Biden administration in particular. And so they have a strong desire, and here now an opportunity to gain leverage over Donald Trump using the DOJ. And this is a pattern we've seen for a long time. The same DOJ that has tried to prosecute Trump many times over and has failed many times over through the FBI to set him up, through Hillary Clinton's campaign to set him up, Jim Baker, James Comey, Andrew McCabe, Peter Strzok, Lisa Page, all these people colluding to deviate Trump, all the CIA people colluding to show that Trump was spreading Russian disinformation, right? The narrative just goes on and on and on, and Trump is vindicated every time. They also tried to impeach him several times to keep him in line, right? I don't doubt for a minute that if Trump would have gone out or had threatened to have, let's say, pardoned Julian Assange near the end of his first term, that the Senate would have convicted him, right? So the House impeachment was brought onto Trump to shackle him down, to create leverage, to keep him under control. And if Trump would have gone forward and said, you know what, I am going to pardon all the J6ers, or I'm going to pardon myself, or I'm going to pardon my family, or I'm going to pardon Julian Assange or Edward Snowden or any of the people that we were talking about, or he's going to do anything else that got a little bit squirrely, well, then they would have been able to convict him, and they could have punished him and prevented him from running again, and it really would have been a devastating end and limited his future. So that was the leverage, right? And maybe that's why Trump didn't do certain things, because he had leverage. And so they needed January 6th to happen. So they had a justification to impeach him. So they had a justification to convict him. It's the same people doing this again. The same people are orchestrating these prosecutions for the same purpose, which is to gain leverage. And it's very hard to imagine that suddenly these institutions have metamorphed into this new agency of integrity and honor and justice, and they have equal protection of the law, and Trump's getting a fair shake like everybody else. No, it's still Merrick Garland, Lisa Monaco. It's still the special counsel's office, which is under the purview of the DOJ. And it's the same people at the FBI and the CIA. They may not be essentially, there anymore, but it's the same agencies, and they're all going to the same cocktail parties, and they all send the same emails to each other and leverage the agencies. You don't ever actually leave. You just kind of move into the civilian sector as you continue to work for them. And you go and you get your big contract money as you continue to do work for the agencies. So Trump is innocent. We know he's innocent. They know he's innocent. This is an entirely separate standard of justice that is being applied to him. We've got many other classified document scandals. Hillary had a whole server in her closet somewhere, all right? And they twisted themselves in a pretzel to change the conduct from one set of language into another set of language so that they didn't have to do anything for her. But because it's Trump, he gets a different standard. He gets rated. And again, it's not about justice. I'm sure that they can find technical violations in the law. It's about prosecutorial discretion. It's about historical precedent. It's about allowing America and the DOJ, FBI, and essentially now the party in power to use every layer, every apparatus within the government to prosecute your opponents in America. So the Rubicon has been crossed. We knew it was coming. I'm sure Trump knew it was coming. And so now we have to determine how to approach this. One way to do it is, of course, within the court of law, which is battling this in the justice system, going into court, treating it like a regular defense case and showing what a joke this is, which is a common practice. We do a lot of that here. And so they'll be able to do that. And as usual, as more and more stuff comes out, things get more and more ridiculous. We're learning about all the corruption in the Manhattan case. We'll learn more about it in Georgia too. So we will go through that process, but in addition to practicing and defending in the court of law, we also have to be defending in the court of public opinion. And Trump and his team are doing that, and they're doing it well thus far. So let's see where we go. One of the first people who was on TV was defending Trump was, of course, Alina Habba. Here she is today talking about what happened with the indictment.
Trump's attorney, Alina Habba. So just to summarize, Fox has not confirmed the indictment. The former president has just announced this on Truth Social, that he has been informed by his attorneys that he will be indicted over what he calls the boxes hoax. Alina, what can you tell us?
Overdue library books, I think, is a good term.
I can tell you that's exactly how I would characterize this, for the president to be indicted for something that every other president, every other non-president, including vice presidents, have done, shows what a sick world we are living in. I am petrified for the country at the moment, Jesse. Sad for my client, although he is resilient and strong. And it just tells me, once again, why we need him back in the White House. It is a very sad state of affairs in this country.
Have you spoken to the former president since this happened? Have you had any conversations with his legal team? What's the sense there?
I would never discuss any privileged conversations that I have, of course. I can tell you that obviously he put something out which says he's been indicted. It speaks for itself. I can also say that there is a two-tier system of justice that we are seeing right now. Hillary Clinton smashed a computer, got rid of emails. We had recordings in sock drawers. We have Biden and Obama who are hiding things. Biden still has things in Chinatown in his home with a son who's a drug addict, and nothing happens to these people. So when your name is Donald Trump, when you're leading in the polls, you are going to get hit hard. You are going to get indicted until you can't take it anymore. But they picked the wrong guy, Jesse. They picked the wrong guy. And I think that that's why he's so ahead in the polls, and that's why he'll probably win.
So Bill Clinton had presidential records in his sock drawer, and the Department of Justice determined that that was fine. And we all know Hillary Clinton bleached classified documents. She smashed classified records with hammers. And that,
I thought it was like with a cloth. Remember when that stupid phrase, oh, Hillary, why did you wipe your email? She's like, what do you mean, like with the cloth? No. And the Clinton sock drawer case, just to pause on that, because this is an important concept. There are different levels of power. Obviously, we've got people who do the bureaucratic stuff like the National Archives. But then you have the president, which should be the root power, the number one tip of the hierarchy of the executive branch. All of the source power emanates from that person. And so when Bill Clinton left and he took documents with him, he was able to characterize them as having that root power, as being a presidential record. Other people said, no, those aren't presidential records. Those are other documents that are classified. They belong to us and you can't take them and all the things. And he said, yes, I can. And there was a battle over this. Just Judicial Watch filed documents to go get those things. And the judge ruled that said the president has that ultimate authority, because if he didn't, then that would make the person who did have the authority, which Judicial Watch was saying was the archivist, would make that person more important than the president. And how can the court system interfere with that dynamic? Because now that's a separation of powers issue. And so obviously the person with the most power is going to be able to declare that. And they said, Clinton is a duly elected president. Same thing with Trump. They keep trying to smear Trump as though he's illegitimate, or that he's just a common criminal, or that the default with him is that he's presumed guilty, not presumed innocent. He was a duly elected president. He has the same power and the same authority as everybody else. He should be afforded the same historical precedent and historical good faith and good favor that all of the rest of them have been shown. But that, of course, is not the case here. And so Clinton was able to retain documents and declare that they were his. But Trump doing the same thing now suddenly is a felony.
That was fine. She was not indicted.
Yeah.
What is the
Comey
difference?
said, I wouldn't do this. I wouldn't prosecute this.
Right. So what is the difference here? Nothing was destroyed. These were documents that he was negotiating the return of to the archivist. All presidents are entitled to access to all of their presidential records. Every president has had access to their presidential records. Why is this any different?
It's
Very
Trump.
simple. Donald Trump is not owned by any lobbyist. He is not owned by any funder, anybody that would give him any money in exchange for access. He doesn't need the money.
Leverage.
And that is the most frightening thing to the current political climate in America.
They've got leverage over everybody else.
He is the biggest threat to the corrupt political system we have, to the corrupt justice system that we have, the Department of Justice that we have, that we've seen whistleblowers afraid for their lives because they know that there were briberies being taken place with the Biden family, and that they are now overseas hiding. They are afraid because Donald Trump doesn't need anyone. And the only way that they can protect themselves at this point, the Comeys of the world, the Bidens of the world, is by making sure he has no voice and that the American people have no voice. And that is what they're doing. They're taking away the American people's right to go into a ballot box and decide fair and square who they want to clean up the mess that has become America.
Yeah, and we saw this a couple times in the last couple years. We had an impeachment of the former president during an election year, and then you had the suppression of accurate information by big tech, by the FBI, disinformation by the CIA before the last election. That stole votes away from people. There have been surveys that prove that if they had known about the laptop before they cast their ballot, in certain swing states, they would have changed their vote. And now you have this, a second election in a row. This is actually the third election in a row that the Department of Justice, the FBI, CIA has involved themselves in against Donald Trump.
And they're getting better at it now. Now, the first one they failed on, remember? They tried to do the whole Russian collusion thing between Hillary when she had Jake Sullivan post the tweet saying, oh, there's collusion going on. Our experts have found. The FBI is investigating. Turns out none of that was really true, because it was really Michael Sussman who took a fake dossier called the Christopher Steele dossier and took that to the FBI, tried to shove it down their gullet, and then simultaneously sold it to the media. And the whole thing was a hoax. So they tried it. The FBI was working with them there, and nothing happened. They lost. So, man, they had to retool. They went back in 2020. They really focused on this. They weaponized all the social media platforms through the FBI, Elvis Chan, delete this, delete that. They had censorship on full swing. They had a whole pandemic here that gave them excuses to do all sorts of stuff and change the entire fabric of our voting system, including by mandatory mail-in balloting, waiving signature requirements, moving deadlines all over the place. I mean, they really pulled out all the stops on that one. Not to mention the CIA and the rest of the intelligence agencies working specifically to create talking points for Joe Biden by communicating with now the Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, was just working as a campaign person at the time, but got the CIA to draft up talking points that they could use at a debate. So the list goes on and on. Now in 2024 now, 2016 failed, 2020 was a success. 2024, Now they've already got the social media platforms. They've already got the voting changes in place. They've already restructured the country in many ways. So now what's next? Well, we might as well just put him in prison. Now let's actually prosecute him to remove him off the field. And so, as always, it's about leverage.
ABC News now, we're hearing it's 7 counts. Can you confirm any of that, Alina?
I cannot confirm the counts. I wouldn't speak to that. I can tell you this. Every single time there is an investigation that comes to fruition against the Biden corrupt family, every single time. Right now we have Ray, who's being held in contempt because he won't share documents. Every single time there is a coordinated dance that is becoming obvious to the American people because they are smart. And what they do is they say, oh, look at this shiny ball, Jesse. Look at this shiny ball. Let's go after Trump. Whatever you hear about the Bidens, don't worry about it. Trump, Trump, Trump. It's called Trump derangement syndrome, and now it's becoming so sick.
They need creams.
I'm embarrassed to be a lawyer at this moment. Honestly, I am ashamed. I am ashamed to be a lawyer. I'm ashamed that this is the state of our country, and it is so obvious that there is this dual system of justice. This is selective prosecution, selective persecution. It is absolute persecution. It is Russia third world stuff, and it should not be happening.
So she brought up the cover up, right? The shiny object that seems to be happening. And I really can't get over the timing on this thing. If we rewind the clock on it, remember that we spent several weeks here, I think, talking about the letters back and forth between Comer and between the FBI director, back and forth, phone calls, messages. Hey, can we come over? No, we can't come over. Hey, you guys want to hang out? No, not this weekend. Talk to my wife. Next weekend may be good. FBI was just dragging their feet on it. Well, why? Well, we didn't know at the time because it felt weird that they just showed up yesterday and just said, here you go, here's the thing. Well, how come that happened all of a sudden? What changed? Oh, that's right. An indictment's ready now. And remember that there were other news stories that there was a flurry of activity in Florida, and a lot of the commentators who've been salivating over the Trump indictment have been wondering, what's all this activity in Florida? They were all, really a lot of flurry of activity there. Well, it turns out they needed to get an indictment done. So they rushed through an indictment. Soon as the FD 1023 drops, which is the Biden crime family bribe document, which implicates directly Joe Biden with a $5 million bribe allegedly with Mykola Zlochensky over from Ukraine Burisma, that whole scandal. That drops. They layer the indictment right on top of it. Christopher Wray's like, you guys ready with the indictment? Jack Smith says, yeah, we're ready. He's like, perfect. So I can give him the document now. Perfect. And the whole thing just unfolds like perfection.
We had Jim Trusty, one of the president's lawyers, who went to the Justice Department, I believe it was Monday, to have a face-to-face with the special counsel. I guess that didn't make much of an impression on the special counsel. And there's also a dual track to this. They have the January 6th investigation that's ongoing. There's something down in Georgia we don't know much about, except the Giggly Wicken is in charge of that jury. And then you have Alvin Bragg here in New York. Is there any concern that this is just a leak?
The Giggly Wicken from Georgia. You remember her. She was the jury foreperson. Coors was her name. The Giggly Wicken. I can't wait to, read him the indictment when he comes in because he's the president and I could charge him. That one.
Legal onslaught that might be too difficult to overcome, or is the president confident?
No, because at the end of the day, all of these indictments, the American people need to remember, they are a one-sided evidentiary hearing in a grand jury that is put on by far-left Democrats. Jack Smith is effectively what you would call a Democrat left-wing operative, for lack of better words. All he does is hate Trump, hate the right wing. So you put this guy in charge. He gives a group of people in a silo his information, his evidence, and then he gets an indictment. That's only the first step. And I really want the American people to understand this legally. This is no different than somebody saying, Alina Habba, you murdered someone yesterday because I brought in Hillary Clinton and she said you did it. Well, yeah, no kidding. So now we get the opportunity to bring our evidence. We get the opportunity to see it through. And if we have an impartial judge, an impartial jury like we are supposed to have in the America I know, in the America that has a constitution that we're supposed to abide by, then President Trump will be vindicated on all fronts. And we've seen this. They can't bring charges. Look at the AG in New York. 3 years of investigation. And then what do they say? Oh, maybe you valued something a little too high. Garbage. Garbage. It's a sad attempt for political interference. There's election interference. It is obvious, and it is so showing that Sleepy Joe is weak and that he cannot hold his office. This is the desperation that we are seeing
And it's
right now.
crazy. It takes 5 years. They still haven't done anything in that Hunter Biden investigation.
Yeah.
They took this thing through in about, what, 4 or 5 months?
Yeah, very quick.
This Boxes deal?
Yeah, exactly.
Alina, I got to run.
Everything
Thank you
with
so
Trump
much.
is fast-tracked.
All right, that's Alina. That's Trump's lawyer out there speaking with Fox in the aftermath of the prosecution, the announcement of the new prosecution, the indictment coming against Trump. And it is a curious situation. It is happening very fast. The timing makes total sense. I mean, the primary season is heating up right now. These cases can take a long time, especially a high-profile case like this. So you have to suspect they want a trial date, let's say 12 months from now. What does that put it? Oh, right in the summer of 2024. Interesting. Now, the question about that is going to be, what does the judge do? Do we have, let's say it's 6 months from now, 8 months from now, 12 months from now. Does the judge continue it until after the election? Or do we have a trial before the election? I don't know. I can see it happening both ways. Time will tell. Now, Trump apparently not that upset about this or dealing with it in a fun way. Trump was DJing on the patio at the Bedminster, playing Elvis, Pavarotti, and playing James Brown tracks from an iPad after he found out about his second indictment. Eric Trump's in the house. Former President Donald Trump broke the news that he'd been indicted for a second time, but he also found time to raise the roof behind Bedminster's DJ console that came out from the New York Times. Sources close to Trump told the New York Times on Thursday evening that just 90 minutes after receiving the call, he was playing tracks by Elvis, opera singer Pavarotti, and James Brown. Threw his iconic red MAGA cap on before taking the stage and playing DJ. Man, he was at a dinner party. However, Trump's social media feed told a different story. He was out. He called himself an innocent man. Because he is. As he tore it up on the dance floor. Now, the case is going to be assigned out of the federal Miami courthouse. And yesterday, people were trying to dig into the system. And man, the whole system crashed. I came across this yesterday. This person says, "Congratulations, everyone." Jose says, "You have broken the ability to access the federal court records in South Florida." The whole federal system went down. The requested URL not found on this server. Please try again. Didn't work out on that one. We also had another post. This one came out from the docket because everybody was trying to crash the docket. But this is what they found from the new filings on that day. So this is the indictment of Trump sealed. This came over from Anna Boer. Says, meaning we probably won't see it until Tuesday, right? We're probably not going to be seeing this thing because it's sealed. So after the arraignment, then they'll unseal it. So we're probably not going to see any other documents. However, Anna took a screenshot of the new filings page. If you want to look at the criminal case report for Florida Southern District, I grabbed it before Pacer went down. And so here's what this shows us. You can see here, this is the criminal cases report, Southern District of Florida for June 8th. Bunch of cases all listed as being added, right? They were all filed on the 8th. Case filed, case filed, case filed, case filed, case filed. And then here on the bottom, we see a whole series that are sealed. So we've got several different filings, sealed, 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 all added on 6/8. Presumably, that is the Trump case. Those are the batches of Trump cases. So we've got some docket numbers here, but the idea is that they're still sealed until the arraignment takes place next week. Now, we do have some rumors about what the charges are. This came over from Alex Malin. Alex Malin covers the Justice Department for ABC News. And here's what he said. He said, full list here, maximum sentences that each of the charges carries if Trump is convicted. And we are going to hear from James Trusty in a little bit. That's Trump's lawyer. He's going to tell us about some of these. So ABC's got a different source. They say unclear whether he faces just one or more counts on any of the named charges. So we've got willful retention of national defense information. So that's just holding on to documents. Okay. 10 years in prison. Conspiracy to obstruct justice. They asked for the stuff back. He didn't give it back to him. They want 20 years, or they could give him a max of 20 years on that. Withholding a document or record after requested back, another 20 years. Corruptly concealing a document, 20 years on that one. Concealing a document from federal investigation, which sounds like almost like the same charge, but you know, this is how the government works. They charge you with everything, okay? B2A, C1, right? It's the same statute, 1512, 1512, 1512, 1512, but they're going to hit you with 3 different subsections. So K, B2A, C1, right? This is the government. And this happens every day all across America. People get absolutely railroaded by the government. Trump just happens to be a very high profile person who's getting, you know, specifically railroaded, has been getting railroaded for 7 years now. Maybe the most railroaded person in modern history. But it is something that happens, and this is just what prosecutors do. This is why people can get sentences like 100 years, which is probably what this is going to add up to. Concealing a document of a federal investigation, another 20 years. A scheme to conceal this, 5 years. False statements and representation, 5 years. These are going to be the conspiracy charges under Section 1001. So, yeah, I mean, if you just add them up, what are the totals here? You've got 10, 30, 50, 70, 90, 100 years. Yeah. 100 years of charges right there for Trump. That's what ABC News is reporting for us. So, pretty serious business. Now, we also have some curious assignments as this case hits the court docket. And the judge who is going to be assigned is somebody we're very familiar with here. We've had several different rulings and opinions and filings that we've read out of this judge's court on the Trump classified documents case. Okay, this is the same judge who was presiding over the special master issue. Remember, when Trump had his whole place raided, they said that the feds came and gobbled up other private materials. Trump was like, hey, you've got my materials that has attorney-client privilege stuff in there and executive privilege stuff. You can't just come into my residence, my home, and take all my stuff and just throw it into your Fed boxes and take it out of here. That's nonsense. So Trump's team said that we don't trust the DOJ. Remember, they said we have got a taint team and we're going to go ahead and separate the executive privilege team and we're going to go through the boxes and we're going to separate it all out. And don't worry, Trump, we're going to make sure you get your documents back and we'll honor your attorney-client privilege and all that crap. And Trump said, no, we don't trust that at all. We want a special master who's outside of the Justice Department to come in and guide us through all of this. And Judge Aileen Cannon said, guess what, Trump? You get it. Why? Because the DOJ has been corrupt, has been disgusting. And she talked a lot about that. She's seeing it. Now, she might see it, but she still might be legally limited about what she can do, right? And so that's what happened. This went up on the Court of Appeals. The Department of Justice challenged this. They said, how dare you? You can't take away our investigation from us. We're the Department of Justice. Don't you know? We run stuff around here. So how dare you bring in an external third-party person to make sure that our partisan political prosecution of our political enemy is not partisan? You can't challenge us. We tell you that. Technically, the law says they're right? Because Congress writes laws that gives the government unlimited power to do everything. Criminal defendants here and individual citizens, it's a David versus Goliath battle every time. So Judge Aileen Cannon was very favorable to Trump in this case. And this is great news as his case lands in this court. Because one of the most important pressing things that happens in a criminal case is the judge sets release conditions. What about bond? Can somebody get out of custody even? In this case, I don't think Trump has a real concern about getting out of custody, not only because this is in Florida and because this is Judge Cannon, but because this is a classified documents case. And the ongoing threat relative to that is very low. So I'm not sure that they're going to make an argument to keep him in bond or to revoke his passport or to limit him to the state or to make him wear an ankle monitor or to make him check in with the pretrial services officer or to make him get drug testing. All these things are release conditions that judges can impose on a defendant. So that might not happen here because this is just documents and Trump's not president and presumably he has no more access to classified documents. So it's not likely of repeating a crime. So he's not a present threat. We're going to compare and contrast that to what might happen in D.C. They're saying, and they're going to say in D.C., that Trump is a clear and present danger. After he gets indicted for the so-called insurrection, they're going to turn around and say, we can't release him. He can't leave the state, or in that case, D.C. He can't leave the country. He does need to check in with somebody. He does need to have an ankle monitor, or they're not going to release him from custody at all. Why? Because that set of charges is going to be about the insurrection. It's going to be about challenging an election that didn't go his way. And they're going to say he's running again and he's winning again, which means he's likely to repeat this. They think Trump is like a murderer. And if you let him out of custody, he's going to go murder again because he just made attempted murder before. Little bit of a more serious allegation. So in this case, Judge Aileen Cannon is going to be making this decision, and she's going to be reviewing the allegations that are in front of her. Although these are pretty serious allegations, right? This makes it sound like he's a spy, right? Like he's literally a treasonous person who's concealing documents and conspiring to wreck the Justice Department. When Trump has valid claims for these documents, which we'll get into. But more from Judge Aileen Cannon. Here's what we know about her. She tells us the following. Trump-appointed U.S. District Judge was listed on the summons sent to Trump yesterday. This came out per People Familiar, indicating she may be the presiding judge. Cannon had previously granted Trump a special master. Remember that? During the investigation last year. Also listed on the summons was Bruce Reinhart, who also approved the FBI search warrant last year. So it's the same people that we're already familiar with. Two of the judges are going to be back in the game. Now, Trump's team is out there communicating about what this means. Here's Kash Patel, who is laying out some framework for some defenses, and in particular detailing the very unethical problems of one prosecutor named Gilbert.
You just said, this case boils down to it's not about having the documents. It's about what happened after the National Archives asked for the documents back, and they didn't get all of them. And next thing you know, there's a search warrant executed. Next thing you know, there's a suggestion that things were moved, that there's collusion, there's obstruction, there's all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, to me, look, as a former federal public defender in Miami and a national security prosecutor, it's a little simpler than that. It's what charges have they levied based on what laws? They're opposing the Espionage Act versus the Presidential Records Act. The latter supersedes the former. So it doesn't matter where they were and who moved them and how if President Trump is the recipient of those as president of the United States when he left the White House. It's a pretty simple matter. What I'd like to talk about is—
Right, because he is the admin user. He is the root user. He has total power over that. So if he has the root authority to declassify, then how can he be involved in espionage? It's like dividing by zero. It makes the National Archivist more powerful. It makes the bureaucracy more powerful about this thing. Now, of course, there's precedent, and Trump could follow their guidelines and all the things, but to charge him with the crime for that is it's not logical because he has the ultimate source. There's nobody else higher than him. Except now, apparently, Deborah Stidel Wall.
some of the lawyers on Jack Smith's special counsel team. Remember, Jack Smith is so it doesn't matter where they were and who moved them and how if President Trump is the recipient of those as president of the United States when he left the White House. It's a pretty simple matter. What I'd like to talk about is some of the lawyers on Jack Smith's special counsel team. Remember, Jack Smith is the one who spearheaded the Bob McDonald case and got shellacked by the Supreme Court 9-0.
Governor of Virginia.
His deputy special counsel is Karen Gilbert, who's one of the most corrupt prosecutors to ever come out of the Southern District of Miami.
Right. A couple of other things. Jack Smith, we heard all about his investigation. It was very public who he was bringing in. Why did he choose to go so public with what he was doing? Why do we get all these leaks out of his camp?
Well, it's the same playbook that the FBI and DOJ have run, whether it's Russiagate, impeachment 1, impeachment 2, Jan 6, what have you. If it favors a story that helps push their narrative, they leak the information relentlessly, whether it's classified or not. And what they don't leak are their actions of corruption by the prosecutors bringing this case. And let me give you an example. The lead prosecutor, Karen Gilbert, who is likely to be the trial attorney in the Southern District of Florida in 2009, was so reprimanded in a narcotics trafficking case that she had to retire from her position. And years later, she was promoted upwards at the DOJ. And now you find, and don't believe me, go to the Ali Shagan case from 2009 and Judge Gold in the Federal District of the Southern District of Florida and look up Karen Gilbert. She is the Weissman to Jack Smith, and she has been pulling the reins on this investigation. And she was called one of the most corrupt people to, guess what? She wiretapped the defense lawyer's investigative office to eavesdrop on the conversation between the defense attorney and the investigator. And before she got slapped by the courts, she resigned from her position. This person is leading this prosecution.
Have you talked to President Trump? Have you asked him, was this worth it? I mean, why even take these documents? And then when you are found to have them in your possession, just give them back, because these are.
So I get so tired of that question, and I don't know why this feed suddenly looks so bad for us. But why didn't Trump just give the documents back? Is it worth it? Why would they make such a big deal about this? And that's such a ridiculous question. It's because he has the power to take them. And why is it worth it for the DOJ to bring the charges? The DOJ decided to cross the Rubicon. They decided to shatter historical precedent in order to get this done. These documents are mostly meaningless, as we can hear. Listen.
On the conversation between the defense attorney and the investigator, and before she got slapped by the courts, she resigned from her position. This person is leading this prosecution.
Have you talked to President Trump? Have you asked him, was this worth it? I mean, why even take these documents? And then when you are found to have them in your possession, just give them back, because these are things like a letter from Obama, a birthday menu, which probably is not part of the classified portion.
A letter from Obama, a birthday menu.
A cocktail napkin, a letter from Kim Jong-un. You listed a few others earlier in the show. I mean, is it worth it? I don't even know if America, I think Democrats and Republicans would agree that you shouldn't go to jail or be behind bars for more than 100 years because of this.
Yeah, why is the DOJ prosecuting it? Brilliant anchor. What do you mean, is it worth it? They're prosecuting it. They're mobilizing hundreds, if not thousands, of people to do this. Maybe they should have thought of that.
If that were the case, I mean, Biden could go to jail, so could President Trump, depending on the different charges. But
let's be realistic. Biden's not going anywhere, all right? Trump is the only person in any actual danger because there are two tiers of justice.
Is it worth it? Why not just give this stuff back?
Ask Merrick Garland about that. All right, so I think
Barack Obama and President Trump should be treated no differently. The two-tier system of justice is on explosive display here. And it is, of course, worth it if and when I believe Donald Trump will be exonerated, to show that he has been a political target rather than a legal target. So whether he took it or not is not the question to me. It's the why they are prosecuting him when they know they don't have a legal justification to do so.
But Kash, let me ask you something about this, the jury makeup of Miami. You know Miami. Does he have a better shot at a fair trial there than he does in New York City?
Yes.
And would have been Washington, where he might be facing the January 6th charge?
Well, sure, of course. I mean, Miami's a little better than Washington, D.C. and New York, but I think it's a pretextual forum shopping operation by these U.S. attorneys and the special counsel's office. To me, I think maybe this will backfire depending on the judge that this lands in, because I don't know that this case will ever get to a jury because of the legal questions at play vis-a-vis the Presidential Records Act and Espionage Act. And oh, by the way, if you want to charge him with obstruction of justice, he has to commit an actual illegality. So these are legal questions that may go to the judge, and I think ultimately the appellate courts before it ever gets to a jury. And I think the DOJ may have bought off more than it can chew by trying to quote unquote forum shop this case down to the Southern District of Miami, where it's home court advantage for the deputy special counsel.
Well, Kash, we had Jim Trusty on a couple hours ago, and he was talking about how much time, working on a case like this is. Now with the former president facing these charges, which will be unsealed on Tuesday, potential case down in Georgia, potential case with Jack Smith and January 6th and all the other stuff. Does the former president have time to run for president and defend himself at the same time? Because it sounds like a lot of this is going to be happening in the next year.
I think so, and I'll just give you an example as a former chief of staff of DOD for him. I've seen this individual as president operate hostage rescue operations, kill some of the world's biggest terrorists, secure the southern border, order us to deploy DOD assets to take on the narcotics industry, take out the CCP fentanyl flow, all in one fell swoop. That was one day for me in the White House. So yes, I think President Trump, of all people, can do both this campaign and effectively show the two-tier system of justice is targeting him and anyone who's supporting him next. I think he's the only one that has the bandwidth to do so.
Yeah, he's absolutely right about that. He is the only one who could handle an onslaught like this. I can't imagine anybody else who could. It is a full-on onslaught by the entire U.S. law enforcement apparatus being coordinated across multiple states in multiple jurisdictions against a political opponent of the Democrats. It's nuts. It's happening in America, and it's being led by people like Karen Gilbert. This is Karen Gilbert. She's the person that Kash Patel just referenced as being one of the lead prosecutors on Jack Smith's team. This came out some time ago over from 6 South Florida. Hey, that's where Trump's being prosecuted. Wow. A pair of eavesdropping prosecutors stepped down. This one was published back in 2009. Said jumping ahead of a pending judge's punishment, 2 federal prosecutors volunteered to be reassigned. Now, the pair face stiff penalties for allegedly trying to get an edge on the defense in a malpractice case. What did they do? They eavesdropped on recorded phone calls between conversations between witnesses and their lawyers. Oh, man. Oh, wow. They eavesdropped on recorded phone calls between witnesses and their lawyers. Now, this used to be a big problem. Now, apparently, if you're a January 6th defendant, snooping on calls or snooping on emails, in examples, are totally acceptable. Judges used to be upset about this back in 2009. This is in Florida, not in D.C. We know that the prosecutors read emails between the defense and their lawyers in the Proud Boys case. Zachary Real, I believe, was the defendant. But those prosecutors didn't get in trouble at all. In fact, I don't even think they could talk about it at a trial because the whole thing is just a scam. Here now, this pair, for listening to phone calls, got in trouble. Listening to recorded calls, a federal judge called their actions flagrant and had planned to deal with prosecutor and his boss, narcotics section chief Karen Gilbert. But Cronin and Gilbert opted to take their punishment in their own hands. Gilbert stepped down from her post. Cronin asked to be transferred. Hard to believe the two would give up after showing so much zeal trying to convict this guy. 141 counts of writing illegal prescriptions. They tried to convict him. They didn't do it. The pair arranged for 2 witnesses to secretly tape record telephone calls with defense attorney and his investigator. The most scummy cheaters that you could ever be at the DOJ. She's still there. Man, this is like cheating to the millionth degree. It's so disgusting. I don't even know how these people sleep at night. They were routed out by one of the witnesses on the stand in the middle of a trial, probably, that prompted an investigation. Acosta said, I knew nothing of the plan. The Justice Department called the episode deeply regrettable. Yeah. It's unclear if further punishment may be handed down. No. This is who they are. Okay. This is just, you have to be a type of person to do that. It should be criminal, right? I mean, she should be charged with a crime. To secretly tape record telephone calls with defense attorneys, brought witnesses in to do it. That should be a crime, but they call it an investigation. All right, because they're the Department of Justice. That was in 2009. Now, did anything happen to this woman? No, she's working on one of the biggest prosecutions in the whole country right now. This is her profile over on LinkedIn, and they hide their faces because they like to just scurry around in the bowels of the DOJ, just hidden, disgusting. Now, here Karen Gilbert says, attorney at the U.S. Department of Justice in the D.C. Baltimore area. There she is. She's still there. She's going to be prosecuting Trump. So these are the people in charge. And the DOJ still acts, and the media still pretends like it's a legitimate institution that is doing justice. Give me a break. All right. So that is at the outset. Now, we have questions. Trump's defense lawyer details the indictment. He got the summons for us, and we've got some rumors about what the charges are, and the maximum penalties are pretty severe. Doing some quick math on this, it's 100 years, 10 years for willful retention, 20 for conspiracy, another 20 for withholding documents, corruptly concealing, 20, and hiding a document from the feds, 20, scheme to conceal, 5. And another false statement, another 5 years. Add them up, it's 100 years. Now, James Trusty, Trump's lawyer, is giving us some insight as to what this means. And he detailed for us 3 different charges. 18 U.S. Code 793 we'll take a look at. We've also got tampering and some reaction from Trump's other lawyer, Tim Parlatore. And then we've got false statements and conspiracy charges that we'll review, along with some evidence from CNN, allegedly from a recording that we think may be from this guy, which is a former Trump valet, Trump personal assistant called Walt Naudo. And so let's listen to what Trump's attorney details for us. What does this summons entail? Jim Trusty from Trump's defense explains.
No, we haven't been provided with the indictment yet. What we have right now is essentially a summons, which is a replacement for a warrant, right? Normally, indictments are accompanied by a warrant where there's an arrest. Here, we've received a summons from the Department of Justice asking us to be at the courthouse Tuesday at 3 o'clock.
And does it say how many charges there are against your client?
Again, it doesn't perfectly mirror an indictment, but it does have some language in it that suggests what the 7 charges would be. Not 100% clear that all of those are separate charges, but they basically break out from an Espionage Act charge, which is ludicrous under the facts of this case, and I can certainly explain it, and several obstruction-based type charges, and then false statement charges, which are actually, again, kind of a crazy stretch just from the facts as we know it. So there's a lot to pick at eventually from the defense side, but that appears to be the charges, and it appears to be something that will get off the ground on Tuesday.
Okay, so you're confirming it is 7 charges. You said there's an Espionage Act charge. Is there one on the willful retention of documents?
Yeah, that's it. We're talking 18 U.S.C. 793. And then there's several 18 U.S.C. 1512, 1519s. I know it's great television, right, to cite these numbers. But the bottom line is it breaks down to the retention charge, as you would call it, obstructions, and false statement.
And is there a conspiracy charge in here?
I believe so. I don't have it in front of me right now. Again, this is not biblically accurate because I'm not looking at a charging document. I'm looking at a summary sheet. So there's language in there that might actually be reflecting a single count instead of 2, but I think there was a conspiracy count as well.
And so that means there could be other indictments. Have you been told that anyone else was indicted here?
We weren't advised of anyone else being indicted. I have a theory that maybe some of the outrageous misconduct has affected the equation in some other case, a potential target. But bottom line is right now, all we know about is our client.
What's your theory?
Well, over the last 24 hours, it's become public that members of the Department of Justice, led by Jay Bratt, who is a pivotal figure in this investigation, this is the guy who wanted to do a raid before they even had a subpoena out, he apparently, along with 5 other people in his presence from DOJ, extorted a very well-respected, very intelligent lawyer from Washington, D.C.
Caitlin doesn't like that.
Saying essentially, if you want this judgeship that's on Joe Biden's desk, you have to flip your guy to cooperate against the President of the United States. That should be a headline.
Do you have evidence of that? I know
that
that's been something that Republican allies of Trump have been saying, but do you have evidence that happened?
Proof?
Yeah, this is
Yeah, we do.
This is no political talker. This is something that was reported at the time by the attorney. It has been basically sworn to by him. He's written a letter that's been submitted to a U.S. District Court judge confirming it happened. And I think it'll be really interesting to find out whether DOJ, whether the 5 people that sat in the room and watched that extortion have threads of text messages or emails where they comment about that. So we're going to want some discovery about just how far-ranging this criminal activity was by a prosecutor. And think of the irony. Once again, you've got prosecutors saying, we're going after this guy because of obstruction. You know, that's their theoretical distinction from Delaware, while they literally obstructed justice. They literally tampered with a witness in the fall of 2022.
Let's get back to the indictment here. We don't have any evidence of what you're claiming there. I know that the legal team has been alleging prosecutorial.
Yeah, just sworn testimony.
That's what you're saying. I'm taking you at your word on that. We don't have any evidence of that ourselves. I just want to note for our audience. But I want to get back to the indictment here because this is the breaking news tonight from your own client. How did you find out about this? Did you hear from the special counsel, Jack Smith? How did you get this summons that you're referencing?
Yeah, we got an email from the guy who actually did the extortion. I think that was a cute little message from DOJ that they're not gonna worry about their own dirty house. And so we got an email that basically had a summons, an invitation to have a call to kind of work on some of the logistics. And we'll work on those logistics. There's a lot to kind of figure out between the U.S. Marshals and the U.S. Secret Service to make this as smooth as possible, make it safe for the public, and make it efficient in the courthouse. So that's all coming. It would be nice to actually have a copy of the indictment, but we don't have that quite yet.
When do you expect that you'll get a
hostage until we agree?
When do you expect you'll get a copy of that indictment?
Tuesday.
Sometime between now and Tuesday afternoon. If they want to continue to play games, they'll give it to us at 3:01 p.m. Tuesday.
What was the former president's reaction when you told him that he had been indicted in this case?
Yeah, it's a combination of things. I mean, look, anytime you advise a client that they've been indicted, when they know it's just fundamentally wrong. You know, I know all attorneys go on the air and say, my client's innocent, and then after the trial, we're going to win the appeal. Well, here he is innocent. I mean, everything about this case is absolutely rotten. The misconduct that we've documented for an attorney general who hides behind Jack Smith. And so his reaction was personal, but it wasn't. You know, he thought about it and he said, this is just a sad day. I can't believe I've been indicted. You know, those are kind of my summary words of what he had to say. But at the same time, he immediately recognizes the historic nature of this. This is crossing the Rubicon. You know, when we have a weaponized DOJ serving as the Praetorian Guard for the Democratic Party, for the incumbent administration, and the Attorney General, who is in charge of Jack Smith, hides from meetings, hides from conversations, and just says, go talk to Jack.
Well, Jack Smith
is a crazy new world.
Jack Smith is a special counsel. He acts independent. That's why he was appointed in this. But he was in that meeting that you were in on Monday at the Justice Department, we are told. Did he say anything to you in that meeting? Was there any indication that these charges were coming?
I'm not going to talk about the meeting, but to go back to your premise there, Caitlin, this is not an independent counsel statute. That changed. This is special counsel. They are still answerable to the Attorney General. Now, for whatever political reason, maybe it's all about Delaware, where apparently cases go to die, everything that the Attorney General should be doing in terms of transparency is not happening. That started with his impromptu press conference to announce the president's guilt. It's continued with the misconduct that we've documented, and it's not just the smoking gun that I've mentioned in terms of extortion. Now, obviously, you got Tim Parlatore there. He can tell you about the grand jury abuse that he went through directly. That's pretty solid evidence.
He's good, man.
And there's a whole bunch of other stories of mistreating, intimidating, browbeating witnesses, and gamesmanship. So
I know those are your allegations.
We're come out smoking on
Jim,
this thing.
and I know that's why you went to the Justice Department on Monday to air your grievances about how this investigation has been conducted. But again, this is historic. You're right. Your client has been indicted. He's the first former president to face federal charges. What day did you get the target letter letting you know that he was indeed a target in this investigation?
Look, let me just put it to you this way. Witnesses don't have raids at their houses, okay? We've known he's a target.
But when did you get the formal letter?
Years,
because that changes it.
I'm not going to get into that. The internal communication stuff is not something I'm comfortable throwing out because it's between the attorneys, okay?
Well, you feel comfortable coming on and making these allegations.
Was with Jack.
But Jim, you feel comfortable making these allegations about who's on the special counsel's team. Why can't you say when they sent you the target letter?
Because I have no interest in reporting on those types of facts of communication. So, sorry.
Which legal team will be with Trump when he shows up on Tuesday? Will he show up on Tuesday?
Will he show up? No, he's going to flee the country.
Yeah, he's going to show up. Look, he knows he's innocent. He knows this is garbage. He knows there's fundamental flaws with each one of the counts that they're apparently putting in this indictment. And he knows that the whole process, starting from the archivist, was a corrupt and politicized one. So he's not shrinking from the fight. He's disappointed that this is where we are as a country and this is where the Department of Justice is. But he's not, you're not going to see him, hide in Scotland. He's going to be ready to handle this case and help his attorneys fight it. And we'll see. It'll make some excitement to see who shows up at the table on Tuesday, I guess.
So it's not clear which attorneys will be with him. Is that what you're saying? Because so far it's been you, John Rowley, Lindsay Halligan handling this.
Yeah, we'll see where it all goes.
Okay, so you're leaving the door open that other attorneys could be joining. We'll see what that looks like. Is your understanding that all of this is now happening only in Florida, not in Washington at the grand jury here any longer?
No, it's definitely happening in Washington.
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, it's kind of an interesting scenario as to why they would be in a grand jury in Washington, D.C. for the better part of whatever, maybe 10 months or more, and then make this shift. I know that some of the
I think it's to cover up the FD 1023.
Colleagues from the Department of Justice had even published articles talking about some of the venue problems that they might have with some of these charges. But I think it might go back to the misconduct. I think there was so much that was wrong about how they conducted the investigation in D.C. that they might be going down to Florida to kind of sanitize the process, make it look to the Florida grand jury like there's nothing to see here when they drag in vice presidents, violate attorney-client privilege, make 4 personal attorneys and 7 Secret Service agents and a vice president testify. Maybe they're trying to get away from the damage they did in D.C. But bottom line is no sign of a second case or a separate case. That would be kind of the ultimate overreach by these.
No sign of a second case. So that's interesting. He's saying that they are trying to rebuild the case in Florida. In other words, they really screwed things up in D.C. So they're going to take a bunch of the evidence that they gathered in D.C. from violating executive privilege, from breaching attorney-client privilege, from threatening witnesses with removing their judgeships, all that stuff. They're going to take all the evidence from that. They're just going to sort of pass some of it along down to the Florida grand jury where it hasn't been tainted and rebuild a case that's free from all of the fruit of the poisonous tree that the government created in their original prosecution. Now, I think that's optimistic. I still believe that they're going to indict him out of D.C., and I think it's going to be on the January 6th stuff, but we'll wait for that to happen. Meanwhile, we heard a couple of the charges from James Trusty, and this is what he explained for us. 18 U.S. Code 793 was one of the charges that he referenced, and so very briefly, I want to just show you these. These are kind of big, long statutes that aren't very good to read through because they're very technical. But I wanted to show you one particular statute here, which I think might be pertinent, which is subsection D, right? This is what they might be saying Trump did. And this is from 18 U.S. Code 793, which is gathering, transmitting, losing defense information. And we have this one under the espionage category. There's also the obstruction category, and there's also the false statement category and the conspiracy category. All right, so these are very big statutes, and I just wanted to show you how broad they are, essentially. Here they tell us, under subsection D, that this would be Trump, all right, Trump, essentially, lawfully having possession of access to these documents, anything relating to national defense, and if you have reason, if the possessor has reason to believe that it could be used to injure the United States, if they communicate, deliver, transmit, or, here it is, willfully retains the same, okay, and fails to deliver it on demand is in violation of this law. So it's not a complicated thing. It's just if you willfully retain something and you fail to deliver it on demand to an employee of the United States who's entitled to receive it, that's violation. Now, one of the things I would just latch onto is this right here. Is the National Archives entitled to receive a declassified document that is a presidential record that's in Trump's possession? I would argue no, you're not entitled to receive it. You're not entitled to receive any of these things. They're Trump's documents. They're his personal records that are not entitled to be withheld and archived as part of the presidential records. And the D.C. Circuit, through Judge Amy Berman, has communicated that in the lawsuit about the Clinton sock drawer. So this is just one statute, and you can see there are others. 18 U.S. Code 1519 is about the falsification of records, and so this statute is a much shorter. But it says, whoever knowingly alters, destroys, mutilates, conceals, falsifies, and so on, or obstructs the proper administration of any matter of the law shall be imprisoned not more than 20 years, right? This is a statute that can result in 20 years imprisonment. See how broad these are? Whoever knowingly obstructs the investigation of a matter of the DOJ, and you can define that in many different ways, 20 years on that one. So we see what they're doing. We also have tampering. And so we've got some evidence that is now floating around about some of this stuff. But one of these is a big statute about tampering with a witness or a foreign informant. Punishment in a big, long statute, right? And so the government is going to have to prove their case under these charges. But what is the evidence that actually makes these things up? What might espionage be? We just read that. It's willful retention of a document that you know is really not something you should have. Here's what CNN says. They tell us that they've got audio recordings and now transcripts that detail what was said in those audio recordings. Here is their report.
A report last week with Caitlin Collins and Caitlin Polans about this recording where the former president not only claims to have retained classified information, but also acknowledges the limits of his power to do so. And now we have the transcript of the relevant portion. And I'm going to read some parts of that, but it's clear he acknowledges or claims that he kept secret information. Now, in this recording, this was back in July 2021, he is speaking to some visitors at his New Jersey golf club. We know from our sources that among the people in the room were at least two people working on Mark Meadow's autobiography, as well as some Trump aides.
Okay.
He is referring here to General Mark Milley. He says, quote, well, with Milley, let me see that. I'll show you an example. He said that I wanted to attack Iran. Isn't that amazing? I have a big pile of papers. This thing just came up. On the tape, we're told that you can hear him rustling the papers at this point. Look, this was him. They presented me this. This is off the record, but they presented me this. This was him. This was the Defense Department and him. We looked at some. This was him. This wasn't done by me. This was him. I'll keep reading, but you can tell at least 4 times, he emphasizes that this was Milley. He goes on to say all sorts of stuff, pages long. Look.
Milley's not a big friend of Trump, by the way. Remember, after January 6th, Milley and the DOD, they were on the phone with their compatriots in China, and they were also talking with Nancy Pelosi about removing Donald Trump.
Wait a minute. Let's see here. I just found, isn't this amazing? This totally wins my case. And I want to note here, his case he's referring to here is this dispute with Milley, not the current pending criminal investigation. Except it is like highly confidential, secret. This is secret information. Look at this. I will note that secret and confidential are both, of course, levels of classification. And then arguably the most damning quote, he says, he asks someone in the room if he can declassify it. And then he says, as president, I could have declassified, but now I can't. And of course, that last quote undercutting all of the public arguments that he, his allies, and his attorneys have made about how he was able to declassify things once he left office, or that he may have even had a standing declassification order to declassify any materials in his possession before he left office. But in terms of
No, it doesn't. It just means that Trump is basically, the way I would interpret this is that he can't share the information. Right? He knows it's highly secret. He knows it's highly confidential. In other words, it's protected information. So he can't just publicly start talking about it to exonerate his position. It's not that the status of the document is an illegal status. He's not saying here, look, I've got illegal drugs in my possession. He's saying that the characterization of this information is highly confidential. It's secret, right? It's important information. When he was the president, he could have brought it to our attention, right? He could have just said, hey, I'm officially declassifying this. Now you know it all. But now he's not in a position to do that. He's still not breaking the law by being in possession of classified documents. He's just saying this is secret stuff. You know, I can't just put this in your book, in other words. But it wins my case, right? But I am entitled to keep it because it's not a part of the presidential records that need to be archived. Except it is like highly confidential secret, he says.
I will note that secret and confidential are both, of course, levels of classification. And then arguably the most damning quote, he says, he asks someone in the room if he can declassify it. And then he says, as president, I could have declassified, but now I can't.
So I'd like to see that. What did he say when he asked them if he could declassify it? Right? They just put this one back up on the phrase. In other words, he could have gone through a formal process by which he communicates this information to America through the formal process. But he didn't do that. But that doesn't mean that the status of this document is illegal, right? There is a declassification process you can go through and all the things, but the fact that Trump is in retention of this doesn't mean that it is illegal. It could still have a declassified status, but he didn't go through the formal declassification process to present it to America, right? There's all sorts of things that we have and things that we keep close to the chest and we don't tell anybody about, but we're not in illegal possession of them. He's saying, I could have gone through, we could have maybe talked about it. I could have, formally gone through all of this stuff and shared it with you. I didn't. But that doesn't automatically mean the document is illegal.
And of course, that last quote undercutting all of the public arguments that he, his allies, and his attorneys have made about how he was able to declassify things once he left office, or that he may have even had a standing declassification order to declassify any materials in his possession before he left office. But in terms of and
again, the mere removal, the possession of it, I think is enough there to show and the president has the power to do it. If you have to if the president has to fill a form out in order to do something, then the person who's in charge of approving the form is more powerful than the president. Okay. I know it's very complicated for these CNN people to understand that. They want everything to go through some bureaucratic form or some agency like Deborah Steidel-Wall. But if she gets to declare what Trump can classify and declassify, then she's more powerful than the president.
Investigation, prosecutors are likely going to be most interested in the fact that he is claiming to have retained secret information and is appearing to try to share that with a room full of people, none of whom had security clearances. So again, this is a really key piece of evidence in this.
I don't think so. I think they're mincing his words. They're manipulating his words. I don't think he's saying to somebody, I'm showing you top secret information, top classified information that I can't be showing you. I think he's saying this is information that I have that is technically declassified as a document status, but I cannot give it to you to put it in your book because it is sensitive secret information. So he's actually making a good judgment about it. I think legally he could, right? I think technically he could actually if he wanted to, because it is declassified. But he's saying, look, it is highly sensitive. It is secret. Look at this thing, right? Look at the document. It's got stuff on it. So I can't give it to you. I wish I could. I should have gone through the formal declassification process, signed an executive order, published it on whitehouse.gov, and that would have won my case. But they're taking that language and they're rebundling it to say, I've got secret classified information that's top secret and documented, and that's why I'm not giving it to you. It's what prosecutors and the corrupt media do. I don't buy it.
Ongoing investigation.
Yeah, Paula, this was reading your reporting this morning, it was a genuine kind of jaw drop moment.
Yeah, I'm
just
sure it
because
was
of how
for
many
you.
things it seemed to rebut about what
Yeah,
the
I'm
president
sure.
has said publicly. You kind of got at this a little bit, but
Yeah.
what is your sense of how this will factor into things going forward or into the indictments that we haven't seen yet?
When we were doing our reporting on the existence of this audio recording last week, I mean, one source close to the legal team told me, look, this audio recording, this is a problem. And the former president's legal team only learned about this a few months ago in March when a witness was asked about it before the grand jury. I also want to note that prosecutors subpoenaed the document that he refers to, and they still don't have it. It's unclear, one, what this document was. If it was indeed a real document, though it appears by this transcript, he does clearly think that he's in possession of something, that he is showing them something that supports his argument against Milley. But at this point...
Is it, though? Is it? Was it actually illegal? Was he in possession of it? Because the law doesn't say talking about something like that. You've got to actually have the document, right? You got to actually be in possession of it, right?
It's not clear that the government even has this document in its possession. So we
bummer.
don't have the
That sucks for
indictment
you
at this point. It's unclear when that will be unsealed, but it would not be surprising if this audio recording or quotes from it come up in the indictment. But at this point, we don't know. It's clearly, though, a piece of evidence that even the former president's legal team acknowledges is a problem for him.
Well, it's a problem because you guys have taken it out of context and you're trying to say that him referencing a highly sensitive document makes that possession of that highly sensitive document illegal. And that's not necessarily the case at all, especially when you give us partial transcripts from some witness. We don't know who that is. Now, there is new news that the person who was Donald Trump's personal assistant and valet named Walt Naudo has been indicted, and we're going to get back to that. But some people are wondering if he is the witness that maybe recorded that audio and turned it over to the government, or if that was somebody else, because there are other conversations about another charge, which is obstruction or tampering. As we heard from Trusty, he said that Section 1512 was another one, which is the tampering statute with a witness. And Tim Parlatore tells us a little bit about some tampering that goes on from the government side.
Evan Corcoran testified in a limited nature before the grand jury here in Washington, and the prosecutors have his notes and apparently some voice memos as well. Are you familiar with these pieces of evidence?
Yes.
What can you tell us about them?
I reviewed those notes. There is nothing that I read in there that really, shocked me as far as, all these claims of crime fraud exception.
So let's pause on this briefly. This is a former Trump lawyer, Tim Parlatore, and he's talking about evidence that Trump's other lawyer, Evan Corcoran, may have presented to the grand jury, to the special counsel. And remember that Trump hired a lawyer, and when you hire a lawyer, you have attorney-client privilege to protect those conversations. But the special counsel and the courts have breached that. They've said that that protection no longer applies to Trump and that Evan Corcoran can now testify. So Corcoran did go in and testify. One of the ways that they broke that attorney-client privilege was by alleging that Trump was using this lawyer to commit crimes. And there's what's called a crime fraud exception. You can hire a lawyer and have all sorts of protections and attorney-client privilege. Unless you're committing a crime together, then you don't get to use that force field of attorney-client privilege to protect yourself. So then it breaches that privilege. And now they're asking about this because Trump apparently is being charged with obstruction as well. Now, here's what the story is.
You got to remember that litigation was done before the prosecutors had access to the actual notes. It was all based on supposition of they want access to the notes to see if they will match their theory. And I think once they got the notes, they realized, wow, it doesn't match our theory at all. And so, based on everything I've seen, if they don't change their theory of obstruction, if they keep with the same, theory that they've been pursuing throughout, Evan Corcoran very well could be a witness in this case, but he'd be a witness for the defense.
So to be clear, you've reviewed the Corcoran notes and these voice memos?
Those are essentially one and the same. It's a transcript. He took voice memos, rather than writing it out.
And to be clear, your assessment is they are not damaging to the former president's case?
Correct.
On what basis?
These are ordinary conversations that an attorney would have with their client who has just received a grand jury subpoena. You know, questions get asked. This happens, it's happened to me hundreds of times.
All the time.
Where a client gets a subpoena and they say, do we have to comply with this? Do we really have to give them everything? Do they have this power? Don't they have to get a judge to approve this? How do we, do we have an opportunity to, to stop this? Can you file a motion? All of those questions of, do we really need to respond to this?
All are normal. You're allowed to do that. You're allowed to ask questions in American justice, or where you were used to, and pursue your case. It's called the adversarial system. I've had many clients tell me, well, what happens if I don't show up? What happens if I say this? What happens if this person doesn't show up? How does all this work? And you can communicate about that, and you can advise a client, well, if you don't show up, or if you do this or they do that, here are some of the other consequences of that course of action. So it's all normal, unless it's Donald Trump, right? You're allowed, in my humble opinion, to challenge elections. You're allowed to challenge the Electoral Count Act and say that Pence has powers that maybe other people don't think he does have. That's how the system works. People push the limits and people push back. It's the same system that we see everywhere. The Dobbs decision came out from somebody challenging something in a new novel way that came out with a new opinion from the Supreme Court that then echoed throughout the entire country. Happens every single day. Only this DOJ will say that Trump asking questions and investigating his position in our justice system is akin to criminality and insurrection, and such that it should violate the attorney-client privilege. These people are disgusting, and they are weaponizing every single facet, including the attorney-client privilege, to bring all of these charges against Trump. There are many, and I'm sure there will be more to come. Of course, we will continue to dig into this. Thank you for liking this video wherever you're watching, and thank you for subscribing as we continue to cover this and more. Now, we've got reaction that we've got to get to. Lots of it, because the politicos are out. Politicians react to Donald Trump's Florida indictment. We're going to check in with the GOP. We're going to hear from the Senate, people like Hawley. We've got candidates running for the presidency like Ron, Tim Scott, and McCarthy and Gaetz, all reacting, including some of the lefties like Rachel Maddow and Schifty Schiff, all talking about the Trump indictment. And so let's start with the Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy. What did he say about this? Well, he posted this pretty quickly, 6:22 on June 8th. He says, today is a dark day for the United States of America. It is unconscionable for a president to indict the leading candidate opposing him. Joe Biden kept classified documents for decades. I and every American who believes in the rule of law stand with President Trump against this grave injustice. House Republicans will hold this brazen weaponization of power accountable. And we're watching all of the conservative so-called GOP Republicans, and we're keeping our eye on who is commenting and who is not commenting, and then who will only comment on very particular days and then fly out into the sunset, never to return again, because many Republicans have been very quiet on the weaponization issue for a long time. Now they'll post a tweet. Now, Matt Gaetz has been on this for a while. Matt Gaetz says, the phony box hoax indictment is an attempt to distract American public from the millions of dollars in bribes that the Biden crime family received from foreign nationals. This scheme won't succeed. President Trump will be back in the White House and Joe Biden will be Hunter's cellmate. Yeah, I mean, if we're going to be prosecuting political opponents, why not include the Hunties? GOP candidates also commenting on this. Ron DeSantis posted this one over on Twitter. He said the following: the weaponization of federal law enforcement represents a mortal threat to a free society. He says, we have for years witnessed an uneven application of the law depending upon political affiliation. Why so zealous in pursuing Trump, yet so passive about Hillary or Hunter? says the DeSantis administration will bring accountability to the DOJ, excise political bias, and end weaponization once and for all. So Ron commented on it this time. Last time Trump got indicted, he had a different statement, but this was a nice defense of Trump. I think one of the better tweets we saw came from Vivek, who's running. He said the following: "We can't have two tiers of justice, one for Trump, another for Biden. One for Assange, another for Manning. One for BLM and Antifa, another for peaceful protesters on January 6. I never thought we'd see the day when the U.S. president deputizes the DOJ to arrest his lead rival in the middle of an election. Obama shamefully tried to deputize the FBI to infiltrate Trump's 2016 campaign, but they're leaving nothing to chance this time around. The federal police state is outright arresting Trump." He says this is an affront to every citizen. We cannot devolve into a banana republic where the party in power uses police force to arrest its political opponents. It's hypothetical for the DOJ to selectively prosecute Trump, but not. It's hypocritical for the DOJ to selectively prosecute Trump, but not Biden. There are also serious legal questions about the president's power to declassify documents and the potential illegality of the overclassification of federal documents in the first place. But that's for the courts to decide. But we, the people, decide who governs the nation. It would be much easier for me to win this election if Trump weren't in the race, but I stand for principles over politics. I commit to pardon Trump promptly on January 20th, 2025 to restore the rule of law in our country. Boom! From Vivek. Nice comment. I think the absolute right answer. That is what the pardon power is for. It is an escape hatch to protect people who have been politically prosecuted in this country. That's what the founders put it in there for. And so it's an appropriate use of it. Tim Scott also weighed in on this. Here's what he said when he was on that network.
The one thing that makes America the city on the hill is confidence in our justice system. And today, what we see is a justice system where the scales are weighted. That seems to be the outcome of where we are today. As President of the United States, I would purge all of the injustices and impurities in our system so that every American can have confidence that they will be seen by the Lady of Justice with a blindfold on. That is what we need in this nation.
Tim Scott running for president, saying he was purging the Justice Department if he is in office. We also have senators who are weighing in. Senator J.D. Vance said the following. He said, "The former president will be indicted for mishandling," quote, "his own government's classified info." Came out of his government. Yet everyone, his government, right? Yet everyone agrees the president has the authority to declassify anything. This is a moral and constitutional joke. Merrick Garland has disgraced the country. Fact check on that one is true. Josh Hawley is now speaking out about this. He's been quiet about a lot of these issues for a while, but here he is.
Going back to, Senate leadership here. I mean, you cannot, as an office holder in the Republican Party, sit by, even if you can't stand Trump for policy reasons, personal, whatever it is. This is your moment to step forward and say, we can't allow this to continue to happen to our institutions, not to the Justice Department, the FBI, CIA, Intel. We can't continue this. Because you're right, Banana Republic, this is what Putin does. This is what Xi does. This is not what we do in our country. We have elections. Allow the election to take place. But Mitch McConnell, this is your moment, my friend.
Oh, he's not going to say anything. Mitch hates Trump.
I would just say that this is not about Donald Trump, ultimately. This is about the United States of America. This is about whether the Constitution is still real in this country. This is about whether any American can expect the due process of law. And make no mistake, If Merrick Garland can send a SWAT team to the homes of pro-life Catholics to terrorize them, if he can call parents domestic terrorists, if he can jail or try to jail Biden's political opponents, he can do whatever he wants to any American. That is what this is about, and that's now what we're fighting for.
It's absolutely true. And yes, it's Trump. Trump's got billions of dollars. Trump has a massive following of people who will never leave him no matter what. But could you imagine if you were not like that? What if you were just, I don't know, some young person who wanted to, go try running for office? You're like, I'm going to get involved in politics. I think I'll run for Congress one day and help save my community and save America, like a good person might. And then you have these monsters who have entire control of the DOJ and the FBI and the CIA, evidently, and they've got many local prosecutors' offices, and they just weaponize everything to shut you up. That's how they maintain control. That's how they maintain power. Trump is just the head of the snake, right? They just want to cut him off so that everybody else falls into line. And if they can, you got to imagine they will. So Trump is the tip of the spear, and that's why so many people, I think, are finding it more probable to support him rather than to abandon him in the face of this indictment. Now, we have the typical reaction from people like Mitt Romney. Here's what he had to say. Romney came out and he says, the following. Let's open this up so we can really get into what Romney said. Open this up over here. Get a little bit bigger size on it. He says, Romney writes, like all Americans, Mr. Trump is entitled to the presumption of innocence, although that has never happened for him. The government has the burden of proving its charges beyond a reasonable doubt and securing a unanimous verdict by a South Florida jury. Ah, gosh, what a terrible statement. He's a lawyer. By all appearances, it's just like copy and pasting from some prosecutor's statement. By all appearances, the Justice Department and special counsel, here's Romney, have exercised due care. Whoa! Affording Mr. Trump the time and the opportunity to avoid charges that would generally not have been afforded to others. Romney says, Mr. Trump brought these charges upon himself by not only taking classified documents, but by refusing to simply return them when given numerous opportunities to do so. These allegations are serious and if unproven, would be consistent with other actions offensive to the national interest, like withholding, here you go, like withholding defensive weapons from Ukraine for political reasons. So Romney gets his Ukraine statement in there. And failing to defend the Capitol from violent attack and insurrection. So Romney gets his Ukraine statement in there. Isn't that nice? Because I think they maybe run the country now too. It's hard to tell. So Rubio also weighed in on this. He said there is no limit. It's Rubio. He said there is no limit to what these people will do to protect their power and destroy those who threaten it, even if it means ripping our country apart and shredding public faith in the institution that hold our republic together. So that's Rubio. Nice little statement there. And the Senate has weighed in. We also have this one from the GOP. Elise Stefanik posted this. She said, here's our statement. The exact same day the FBI is forced to turn over to Congress absolutely damning and credible allegations regarding Joe Biden's illegal, egregious, and treasonous corruption, Joe Biden weaponizes his Department of Justice to indict Donald Trump. The American people are smart, and they understand this is the epitome of the illegal and unprecedented weaponization of the federal government against Joe Biden's leading opponent, Trump. The radical far left will stop at nothing to interfere with the 2024 election in order to prop up the catastrophic presidency and the desperate campaign of Joe Biden. She says, I am committed to ending the corrupt political weaponization of our federal government, cutting out the rot in these agencies, and holding government officials accountable for their endless illegal witch hunt against Trump. In 2024, we will vote like this country has never seen before, and we will elect President Trump back to the White House to save America. From Representative Republican Conference Chair Elise Stefanik. Now, we've also got reaction from the Dems. What is all this about? Are they really concerned about classified documents? Are they really worried that somebody's going to come and steal one of Trump's notepads? No, they're not. They don't want him to win the presidency. And Rachel Maddow lets us all know.
You have to wonder if the Justice Department is considering whether there is some political solution to this criminal problem, whether part of the issue here is not just that Trump has committed crimes, but that Trump has committed crimes and plans on being back in the White House. Do they consider, as part of a potential plea offer, something that would proscribe him from running for office again? I don't know.
I would imagine if anything like that happened, that it would have to come from the defense side of the negotiation, that the Trump team would say, oh, by the way, and with this, we will also, drop out of the race for president. Otherwise, it would put the Justice Department in this position that Donald Trump claims they're in. He claims they're trying to stop him, simply trying to stop him from becoming president again. And that's the only reason they're doing this. So my guess, given those dynamics and the change, I think, in the way the Justice Department sees this in those 50 years since Spiro Agnew, it just seems unlikely that they would reach into the political zone of the solution. Our politics does have to find a solution to this, but it might have to find that solution separate and apart from the criminal process.
Okay, my friend. So that is Rachel Maddow. And we also have Schifty Schiff, who also weighed in on this, explaining this to his audience.
Hi, Representative Adam Schiff here. Tonight, Donald Trump was indicted on federal charges. Let me see if I can break this down. We haven't seen the charges yet, but we understand, or it's being reported, that there are 7 charges against him. They likely involve his mishandling, his retention of classified information after leaving the presidency, and obstruction of the investigation, and that may be among the most serious charges. This is unprecedented. We've never had a former president charged like this, let alone someone who is the front runner in one of our 2 parties for the presidential nomination. We don't know how soon this will go to trial. It often takes months to get there, but this is a serious matter. It was serious in terms of the mishandling of classified information. Apparently, some of those documents were highly classified. When I was the chair of the Intelligence Committee, we were exceedingly careful not to bring any classified materials outside of that sensitive, compartmented facility where they're supposed to be kept. So it's a serious matter in its own right, obviously all the more serious that a former president is being charged. But here's the thing, the rule of law has to apply equally to everyone. If it doesn't, it's not a democracy. So this is an affirmation of our democracy, and yet our democracy will be put to the test. It already is, with Kevin McCarthy threatening to interfere, to use the power of the Congress to interfere in this prosecution. I'm going to be doing everything I can to resist that.
Pencil neck Adam Schiff explaining the charges. They're all very happy about this. Of course, exaggerating, becoming hyperbolic about what a catastrophe this is, when many people on their side have done much, much worse and not been prosecuted, because there are 2 tiers of justice in this country, and that is the GOP and others reacting to Donald Trump. Of course, we'll continue to cover. Thank you for subscribing and liking this video wherever it is you're watching it. And now, my friends, we have a little bit of a program direction change, but it's the good kind, because we have the document now, I believe. We do. Let me save this. The indictment has been unsealed, and we are going to go through it. So let's get this up on the screen and get our red pen out. Here it is. We have it. The Donald Trump indictment has been unsealed. We have the full 49 pages. You see it comes out of the Southern District of Florida. It involves the United States of America versus Donald Trump. And look who else is on this. Waltine Nauta. Now, we know who this is. This is Donald Trump's valet. And we had an interesting story about him because apparently he applied for a judgeship. And the judgeship was brought up when he was being investigated by Jay Bratt, who is a prosecutor over with the Department of Justice. They said that when Walt Nauta was being there, Walt's lawyer said that this prosecutor basically threatened him, saying, if you don't turn on Trump, we might make it more difficult for you to become a judge. He had already submitted an application. So this person has also been charged alongside Donald Trump. That is Waltine Nauta. Now, we've got a number of different charges. Many of them we expected. This is coming out on June 8th, filed in the court. It is being assigned to Judge Aileen Cannon and Bruce Reinhart. These are the two judges who were also on the original special master's case. Judge Reinhart issued the arrest warrant, signed the arrest warrant that the FBI submitted to go and raid Trump. And then Judge Cannon was appointed to deal with the special master issue. And remember, the special master issue involved the question about whether when the FBI raided Trump, they got too much material, like Trump's private notes, Trump's attorney-client materials. The FBI and the DOJ said, well, we'll separate those out for you. But Trump said, you can't do that. They wanted a third-party special master to be appointed. And Judge Aileen Cannon was the person who was responsible for those rulings, many of which were very favorable to Trump. This is the indictment. Here's what they tell us. They say that at the time material to this indictment, these dates and times are approximate. They write an introduction. Trump was the 45th president of the United States, holding office from January 20th, 2017 until 2021. As president, Trump had lawful access to the most sensitive classified documents and national defense information gathered and owned by the U.S. government, including information from the agencies that create the Department of Defense and the intelligence agencies. Now, over the course of his presidency, they say Trump gathered newspapers, press clippings, letters, note cards, photographs, official documents, and other materials in the cardboard boxes that he kept in the White House. Okay. Among the materials Trump stored in the boxes were hundreds of classified documents, allegedly classified, according to them. The classified documents Trump stored in his boxes included information regarding the defense and weapons capabilities of both the United States and foreign countries, U.S. nuclear programs, vulnerabilities of the U.S. and its allies, plans for retaliation in response to a foreign attack. Unauthorized disclosure of these documents could put at risk the national security of the United States, foreign relations, safety of the military, human sources, and continued viability of sensitive intelligence collection methods. We'll see. Now, at 12 p.m. on January 20th, Trump ceased to be president. As he departed the White House, Trump caused scores of boxes, many of which contain classified documents, to be transported back to Mar-a-Lago, where he maintained his residence. Trump was not authorized to possess or retain those classified documents, again, according to them. Authorized by whom? By Deborah Steidel-Wall? By somebody who's a bureaucrat in some other agency? He didn't fill out the form appropriately? He's the president when he made those orders. Mar-a-Lago was an active social club, which between 2021 and 2022 hosted events for tens of thousands of people. After Trump's presidency, Mar-a-Lago was not an authorized location for storage, possession, review of the documents. But Trump stored his boxes in various locations at the club, including a ballroom, a bathroom, a shower, an office space, a bedroom, and a storage room. Right? We're asking ourselves about that I guess, standard with other presidents. Why did Joe Biden have stuff in his garage? Strange. On two occasions, Trump showed classified documents to others in 2021 after he left the office. Here's what we've got. In July 2021, at the National Club in Bedminster, New Jersey, during an audio recorded meeting with a writer, a publisher, and two members of his staff, none of whom possessed security clearances, Trump showed and described, quote, a plan of attack. that Trump said was prepared for him by the DOD and a senior military official. He told the individuals that the plan was, quote, highly confidential and secret. That's the transcript we played in prior segments. Trump also said, as president, I could have declassified it. Now I can't, but this is still a secret. And my explanation of this is that the document's legal status was technically declassified so that Trump wasn't breaking the law. But when he's there talking about a book, he's saying, I really can't give it to you. I can tell you this, but I really can't give you the document. I should have declassified it. In other words, I should have gone through the formal declassification process by which I can share this publicly. But now I cannot do that. Doesn't mean that I'm in illegal possession of this document. I haven't committed a crime here, but I just can't, I'm showing you, like, look, it's kind of like a braggadocious thing. Like, I've got it here, but I just can't, I should have, but it doesn't mean that that document is illegal. In August or September 2021, the Bedminster Club, Trump showed a representative of his PAC, who also did not possess security clearance, a classified map relating to a military operation and told him that he should not be showing it to the representative and the representative should not get too close. Okay, and again, they're calling all of it classified. So they're just presuming this. So whenever you say that, like, this is going to be litigated. Trump's going to say this is not classified, right, as a legal status. The Federal Bureau of Investigation opened a criminal investigation into the unlawful retention in March 2022. Federal grand jury investigation began the next month. Grand jury issued a subpoena requiring Trump to turn over all the documents with the markings of classification. Trump endeavored to obstruct the FBI and the grand jury investigations and conceal his continued retention of the documents by, among other things, doing the following. And again, Trump is here. He's saying, guess what? They're not your documents. These are my personal documents. They're not presidential records like the Biden sock drawer case says. He's also saying they're not classified. So you don't get to have them back. But they say we do get them back, and you're obstructing our power. Here's what Trump did. He suggested that his attorney falsely represent to the FBI and the grand jury that Trump did not have documents called for. Okay? And again, so this is where Trump could be making arguments. Well, what if I just told them that we don't have the documents? What would happen? You're allowed to suggest that to your lawyer or ask that. What would happen if we did this thing? Happens all the time. If you can't ask your attorney questions like that, and your attorney can say, well, then that would be a problem, then what do you need an attorney for, right? You need counsel to ask questions for. They also say that Trump directed Waltine Nauda, the valet personal assistant, to actually move the boxes of documents and to conceal them from Trump's lawyer, the FBI and the grand jury. So Trump says, well, just, hey, Walt, just go take those and put those at the bottom of the closet. Nobody will know they're there. Suggesting that his attorney hide and destroy the documents called for by the grand jury subpoena. And just to be ultra clear on this, if they are his records and they are declassified, they're allowed to move them wherever the hell they want. They're allowed to destroy them if they're his. Also providing to the FBI and grand jury just some of the documents called for by the subpoena while claiming he was cooperating fully. They said, we gave you everything, and the FBI says you didn't. Also causing a certification to be submitted, falsely representing that all documents called for by the grand jury had been produced, while knowing that, in fact, not all the documents had been produced. And this is probably the certification, the document that was signed that said, we've done our search, we've done our diligent, reasonable search, we found everything, we've given you everything. As a result of Trump's retention of the documents, hundreds of classified documents were not recovered by the United States government until 2022. Wow, just delayed. Joe Biden has had his documents for years now, years. On January 17th, nearly 1 year after Trump left office, after the demands by the National Archives, Trump provided only 15 boxes and 197 documents. In response to demanding more, Trump's attorney gave 38 more. Then on August 8th, they raided his house and they got 102 more documents with classification markings. They tell us about Trump's co-conspirator. So this monster, defendant Nauda, also was a member of the United States Navy, stationed as a valet in the White House during the Trump presidency. He became an executive assistant of Trump and his body man. They worked closely together and traveled together. The Mar-a-Lago Club was located in Florida, Trump's residence, 25 guest rooms, staffed by 150 full-time and temporary employees. They hosted many events, 150 of them, and Secret Service was there as well. But Secret Service was not responsible for the protection of the boxes. Trump did not inform them that he was storing the boxes there. Now, they tell us a little bit more about classified information, and so we'll go through this quickly. But they say national security information is under control of the government. They've got different levels of this: top secret, secret, confidential. Top secret, that would cause exceptionally grave damage. Secret, if it would cause serious damage. Confidential, if it could be causing damage. So damage, serious damage, and exceptionally grave damage are the different thresholds. No foreign means no foreign nationals can read it. Classified materials reviewed in secure, sensitive, compartmentalized facilities. The U.S. has established special access programs. There are executive orders that establish the rules. They say after his presidency, Trump was not authorized to possess or retain classified documents, right? He says that they were not classified. Executive order provided that a former president could obtain a waiver, but Trump didn't obtain a waiver. The indictment tells us that the executive branch more about this. They tell us, as part of his duties, Trump received intelligence briefings from high-level government officials, CIA, Joint Chiefs. The president got a daily brief. The intelligence community, their mission is to give us intelligence, but it turns out they give us mostly disinformation, like the Hunter Biden laptop. After his presidency, Trump retained classified documents that came from the intelligence community, including documents that came from the CIA. The CIA is responsible for creating Hunter Biden laptop fake letters. The DOD, responsible for providing military forces in the time of war. The NSA, he got documents from them. They help protect against information problems in intelligence. Documents from the Geospatial Intelligence Agency, the NRO, they do space-based surveillance. Department of Energy, acting as nuclear deterrence. The State Bureau of Intelligence and Research, okay. Informing diplomacy. Look at all of these bureaucracies. Oh, gosh. Now, here's what Trump said publicly. He made the following public statements. He said in August of 2016, oh my gosh, this is being written like a New York Times article now. So they're going back through his prior statements on classification. In my administration, I'm going to enforce all the laws about classified. No one is above the law. September 6th, he says, we also need to fight this battle by collecting our intelligence. We can't have someone in the Oval Office who doesn't understand the meaning of confidential or classified. Right? Many of these statements are going to be about Hillary, I'm sure. One of the first things we need to do is to enforce all classification rules and enforce all laws related to classified information. These are all Hillary comments, right? He's talking about Hillary. But guess who hasn't been indicted? Hillary. Trump stated, we also need the best protection of classified information, and we got to protect our country. He made another statement as president, July 26. We have to protect information, right? But then after the presidency, we get some photographs that are grayed out. In January 2021, as he was preparing to leave the White House, Trump and his White House staff, including Nauda, packed items, including some of Trump's boxes. Trump was personally involved in the process. And so Trump caused his boxes containing hundreds of classified documents to be transported from the White House to the Mar-a-Lago Club. From January 26th through March 15th, some of Trump's boxes were stored in the ballroom. Events took place there. Trump's boxes were for a time stacked on the stage as depicted in the photograph, redacted to obscure an individual's identity. So Trump moves, all the boxes land there in the room. March, Nauda and others moved the boxes from the ballroom to the business center. On April 5th, an employee there texted another employee to ask whether the boxes could be moved out of the business center to make room for staff. So Trump employee 2 replied, whoa, okay, so POTUS specifically asked Walt for those boxes to be in the business center because they are his papers. Later that day, Trump employee 1 and Trump employee 2 exchanged the following text messages. Trump employee 2 says, yeah, we can definitely make it work if we move his papers into the lake room. Other employee says, well, there is still a little room in the shower where his other stuff is. Is it only his papers he cares about? There's some other stuff in there that are not papers. Could that go to storage? Or does he want everything in there on the property? Yeah, anything that's not beautiful mined paper boxes can definitely go to storage. Beautiful mined paper boxes. Want to take a look at the space and start moving tomorrow morning? They say, yeah. After the text exchange between the employees, some of Trump's boxes were in fact moved to the center to the bathroom as depicted in the photograph below. They picked up the boxes and they moved them there. We see them on the screen. In May, Trump directed that a storage room on the ground floor of Mar-a-Lago be cleaned out, store his boxes there. The hallway leading to a storage room could be reached from multiple outside entrances, including one accessible for the pool patio. The storage room was near the liquor supply, linen room, lock shop, and various other rooms. Trump's boxes were in the lake room, moved to the storage room. After the move, there were more than 80 boxes in the storage room as depicted in the image below. Right? He's moving. Yeah, a lot of moving boxes. Here's some more boxes. In December 2021, Nauda found several Trump boxes fallen, their contents spilled onto the floor, including a document marked secret, rel to USA FV, which denoted information that was releasable only to the Five Eyes Intelligence Alliance, Australia, Canada, New Zealand, UK, US. So Nauda texted an employee. He said, hey, employee number 2, you knuckleheads, you're supposed to be moving these things. What are you doing? So then he says, I opened the door and found this. Nauda also attached 2 photographs he took of the spill. Trump employee 2 says, oh no, I'm sorry, POTUS had my phone. One of the photographs Nauda texted to Trump is depicted below, with visible classified information alleged redacted. Trump's lawful retention of this document is charged in count 8. All right, so apparently there is a classified document somewhere in here, but this all fell on the ground. In May 2021, Trump caused some of his boxes to be brought to his summer residence. Like Mar-a-Lago, after Trump's presidency, not authorized for storage. Trump gave an interview to somebody there, writer and publisher. 2 members of Trump's staff were also there. This was recorded with Trump's knowledge and consent. Before the interview, the media had published reports that at the end of Trump's term, a senior military official purportedly feared that Trump might order an attack on Country A. And senior military official advised Trump against doing so, they say. So we have more of the transcript. Upon greeting the writer, the publisher, and his 2 staff members, Trump stated, look what I found. This was the senior military official's plan of attack, probably Milley. He says, read it and just show it, it's interesting. Later in the interview, Trump engaged in the following exchange. Trump says, well, with Milley, let me see that. I'll show you an example. He said that I wanted to attack Iran, right? Isn't it amazing? I have a big pile of papers. This thing just came up. Look, this was him. They presented me this. This is off the record, but they presented me this. This was him. This was the Defense Department and him. Writer says, wow. He says, we looked at some. He says, yeah, this was him. This wasn't done by me. This was him. All sorts of stuff. Pages long. Look at this. Wait a minute. Let's see here. Yeah, I just found it. Isn't this amazing? This totally wins my case, except it's like highly confidential. He says, yeah. He says, secret. This is secret information. He says, look at this. You attack and they break it out. By the way, isn't that incredible? Yeah. I was just thinking, we were talking about it, and he said he wanted to attack Iran, and what? He says, you did. This was done by the military and given to me. He says, I think we can probably, right? I don't know, we'll have to see. Yeah, we'll have to try to what? Declassify it? Figure out yeah. He says, see, as president, I could have declassified it. He says, yeah, laughter. Now I can't, but this is still a secret. Yeah, staffer says, yeah, now we have a problem. He says, isn't that interesting? At the time of the exchange, the writer, the publisher, and Trump's 2 staff members did not have security clearances or need to know any classified information about a plan of attack. And so you see where this is going. They're trying to say that Trump knows that this document is still classified. I should have declassified it. The way you defend that is to say, look, the document itself is not classified. It was declassified by virtue of the fact that it was removed. This still goes to Trump's wanting to publicize it. I think it's the difference between being declassified and being published. What he's essentially trying to say is, I should have declassified it and published it. Now I can't. It's still a secret. Now we have a problem. But isn't it interesting? So the story goes that somebody was saying Trump wanted to attack Iran on his way out, and Milley said no. Trump says that's not the case at all. They drafted up an attack plan to go attack Iran, and then they showed it to me. So this journalist is asking him about it. People were saying you wanted to attack Iran. He says, no, they gave me this document. So he's basically using this document to defend himself. But this exchange doesn't sound good, right? I mean, this exchange here. See, as president, I could have declassified it, implying that he didn't declassify it, which I think what I would defend him as I would say he was intending to publish it, right? There were other formal declassification things that he declassified, and it caused a formal disclosure at the behest of the U.S. government. Now, he didn't do that here, but that doesn't mean, in my opinion, or my defense position, would be that the document was actually still classified. It had been declassified as a status by virtue of the fact that it got moved. But still, you can see why this is a problematic exchange because of just that phrase. And they're going to take the whole thing out of context. And they've already done that. We've already added in some additional context that we're filling in the gap on. I don't know exactly what this meeting was about from this conversation, but they said that Trump might order an attack, so he is defending against that. He's saying, no, I didn't at all. They wanted to attack the country. They gave me the attack plan. So don't blame me for wanting to attack the country. Now, in August, when he was no longer president, Trump met at his office with another member of the PAC. During the meeting, Trump commented that an ongoing military operation was not going well, Country B. Trump showed the PAC representative a classified map of Country B and said he should not be showing the map to the representative. And he said, don't get too close to this. He's being Trumpy. The PAC representative did not have a security clearance or any need to know classified information about the military operation. All right. And so, look, we also know that the military operations are changing pretty dramatically, okay? So I'm going to be guessing that whatever Trump had was expired. Was this recent classified material? Or was this an old document, right? Everything stays classified for a long time, forever, but is it still relevant, right? Trump declassified it. I'm sure it's not the same plan that they have now. So he's just being jokey about this stuff. On February 16th, 4 years before Trump's disclosures, Trump said at a press conference, people should be ashamed of themselves for this stuff. Okay, so they're just rubbing his nose in it with his prior statements. Beginning in May 2021, the National Archives and the administration, which was responsible for archiving the records, repeatedly demanded Trump turn over the presidential records. On multiple occasions, NARA warned Trump if he didn't, we're sending it over to the DOJ. This is the head librarian, Deborah Steidel-Wall. Between November 2021 and 2022, Nauda, Trump employee 2, brought boxes to Trump to review. They provided photographs of his boxes in the storage room, and other employees provided Trump so that Trump could see the boxes. He said, hey, this is what's on the storage room. A lot of stuff in there. Nauda texted another Trump employee saying he mentioned a picture about the boxes. They said, I'll call you shortly. Another Trump employee texted Nauta about Trump reviewing the boxes. He said, has he mentioned the boxes to you? I delivered some to you, but I think he needs more. Do you think he'd like more in Pine Hall? That was an entry into Trump's residence. Nauta replied 3 successive text messages. He said, Trump said nothing about the boxes yet. He has one he's working on in Pine Hall. He knocked out 2 boxes yesterday. Trump employee 2 texted Nauta, next you are on property, could you help me bring 4 more boxes up? Nauta said, yes, of course, happy to help you bring the boxes up. Trump employee 2 texted Trump, says the box answer will be wrenched out of him today, I promise. Hey, just checking on the boxes, would love to have a number to them today. Employee 2 spoke to Trump, responded a few hours later. 12 is his number. So now they're tracking boxes. He's tracking boxes, more to follow today. Trump employee said thank you. Nauta sends a message to another employee. Hey, one more thing. Was for a new cover for the boxes for Monday right now, Monday morning. Can we get new box covers before giving them on Monday? There's too much writing on them. I marked too much on them. He says, yes, I'll get that. So the employees and Nauta, they gathered 15 boxes, took them to a commercial truck for delivery to Nara. When interviewed in May regarding the movement, Nauta made false and misleading statements. That's why they charged him. This is why it's a big problem to talk to the cops or the FBI. Falsely stating that he was not aware of Trump's boxes being moved. Falsely stating he did not know how many boxes that Trump had. When asked about whether he knew where Trump boxes had been stored, he said, I wish I could tell you, but I just don't know. They say, you're a liar, you're a liar, you're a liar. When the 15 boxes that Trump provided contained classified documents, the FBI went bananas. They referred this over to the DOJ for investigation. So then we get the actual investigation. We got the criminal investigation. A grand jury gets opened up. They say Trump now tries to conceal the boxes. On May 22nd, Nauta entered the storage room and left 30 minutes later carrying a box. Trump met with an attorney and another attorney to discuss the subpoena. Trump and his lawyers told Trump they need to search for documents in order to comply with the subpoena. Trump, in sum and substance, made the following statements as memorialized by Trump Attorney 1. This is going to be Evan Corcoran. All right, I guarantee that's Evan Corcoran. This is the same statement that Tim Parlatore is saying this is not a problem at all. This is just standard attorney-client conversations. And they're charging him with crimes for this. Trump says, I don't want anybody looking. I don't want anybody looking through my boxes. I really don't. I don't want you looking through my boxes. Well, what happens if we just don't respond at all or don't play ball with them? Trump asks. All fine. You're allowed to ask that. Wouldn't it be better if we just told them we don't have anything here? He can ask that too. Well, look, isn't it better if there are no documents? All questions. You're allowed to ask your attorney a question like that. But they breached attorney-client privilege and they extracted these questions and they're using it against Trump. This is so corrupt. This would be like if you and your son or daughter went in and they were charged with a crime and they said, and you just asked general questions about the process. Well, what happens if she says this? What happens if this? And now they breach that and they say, well, why were you asking those questions? How dare you, criminal? While meeting with Trump Attorney 1 and number 2, attorney said the following, as memorialized by Evan Corcoran. He was great. He did a great job. You know what? He said that to him, that it was him, that he was the one who deleted all of her emails, the 30,000 emails, because they basically dealt with her scheduling and her going to the gym and her having beauty appointments. And he was great. And so he didn't get them in any trouble because he said he was the one who deleted them. In May, Trump also confirmed his understanding with his lawyer that they would search the residence. They made it clear they would look for the residence and respond with boxes. Trump delayed his departure because he wanted to be a part of some of the review. Trump's lawyers also discussed the subpoena. Nauta removed, at Trump's directions, a total of 64 boxes from the storage room. On May 24th, he removed 3 boxes. On May 30th, Trump and Nauta spoke by phone for 30 seconds. A Trump family member texted happy birthday. Good afternoon, Walt. Happy Memorial Day. I saw you put boxes to POTUS's room. I'll tell him. Not sure how many he wants to take on Friday plane. We will not have room from them, okay? Plane will be full with luggage. Thank you. Okay, thank you so much. I think he wanted to pick from them. I don't imagine him wanting to take them. He told me to put them in the room and he was going to talk to you about them. Nauda removed 11 boxes. Wow, this is riveting stuff. I really can't believe that they are prosecuting him for something so egregious. I thought it was going to be something serious, something simple, not serious box-moving indictments. Trump spoke with Attorney 1 by phone and asked whether Corcoran was coming to the club and what for, to review the boxes. Trump lawyer was scheduled. They talked on the phone for 24 seconds. Later, they moved 30 boxes. Trump's Attorney 1 moved 64 boxes. And neither Trump nor Nauda told the attorney about that, right? So the attorney who's supposed to be doing the review is now not aware that some boxes that should be a part of the review are outside the scope of the review. They're saying that this is why they're hiding the boxes from the lawyers. On the afternoon of June 2nd, as Trump has been informed, Trump arrived at the Mar-a-Lago club to review the boxes and to look for documents. Trump met with Trump attorney and Nauda escorted the attorney. Attorneys located 31 documents. They used clear duct tape to seal the materials. After Attorney 1 confirmed the finish of the storage room search, Trump asked, "Did you find anything? Is it bad? Is it good?" They discussed what to do with the folder that had classification markings. Trump made a plucking motion. Trump Attorney 1, Evan Corcoran, I'm guessing, says Trump made a plucking motion. Like, well, we'll just... He made a funny motion as though, well, okay, why don't you take them with you to your hotel room? And if there's really anything bad in there, like, pluck it out. That was the motion he made. He didn't say that, but he's like, just pluck it out. That evening, Trump Attorney 1 contacted the DOJ, requested the FBI come so he could turn over the documents. Trump Attorney 1 contacted another Trump attorney, asked her if she would come to act as a custodian of records. So this is Evan Corcoran. I believe Lindsay Halligan is the custodian of record. I believe that was her. Lindsay Halligan. Or there may have been another woman. I'm blanking on her name right now. But the point is, so she comes over, she signs off on the form that says we did a deep dive review. The next day, on June 3rd, at Trump Attorney 1's request, they signed a certification. They said we've conducted a diligent search. We got it after the subpoena. All documents accompany the certification. We did our search. We found everything. You've got it. But they say, nope, those statements were false. Trump told Nauda to move boxes. So many boxes were not searched. So the subpoena could not be responsive, and Trump caused this falsification. Shortly thereafter, Trump Attorney 3 executed the false certification. And earlier in the same day, Nauda had already loaded several Trump boxes onto the aircraft. So then the court authorized the search. During the execution of the search warrant, they seized 102 classified documents. In Trump's office, we had 27, 6 of which were top secret, 18 secret, 3 confidential. More documents in the storage room. We've got now the charges. Counts 1 to 31. Whoo! That's a lot of counts. Willful retention of defense information. They say on or about the dates alleged below. Trump, having unauthorized possession of and control over the documents, willfully retained them, failed to deliver them back to the United States. Here are the materials. Count 1. This one is a document about a White House intelligence briefing related to various foreign countries from 2018. Ancient. Okay, ancient. This one from 2018, another briefing, foreign countries, another count. Count 3, capabilities, military capabilities of a foreign country with handwritten annotation in black marker. Count 4, intelligence briefing, foreign countries, 2019. Count 5, nuclear capabilities of a foreign country, June 2020. Count 6, White House intelligence briefing. Communications with a leader of a foreign country, January 20th, 2021. Probably a letter that he wanted to hang on to. Secret, no foreign. Document dated 2019. This is count 8. Military capabilities. Undated document concerning military attacks by a foreign country in count 9. 10, we have a 2017 document, foreign country, no markings on 11. This is military contingency planning. Undated document about regional military capabilities in count 10. 13, foreign country details. 14, military operations of some foreign country. Policies as well in 15. 16 has terrorist attacks. Foreign countries, military operations. We've got nuclear weaponry, timeline and details of an attack in a foreign country, undated concerns about military capabilities, August 2019, military activity of a foreign country, handwritten annotation in a black marker here, more military activity. A lot of this stuff is really much of the same as we get to count 31. Now, count 32 is going to be the obstruction charge, saying that Trump and Nauda interfered with the investigation, saying that these two were involved in a conspiracy as well, suggesting that Trump Attorney 1 falsely represented to the FBI based on Trump and Nauda moving, and they made misleading statements to the FBI. They also withheld documents, they say, to conceal the documents from a federal grand jury. In count 34, concealing a document, saying that they actually hid Trump's boxes from their own lawyer, right? So that was concealment. Concealing a document in a federal investigation, saying Trump and Nauda did conceal the following. Count 36, they had a scheme to do all of this. Count 37, making false statements and false representations. When they signed the document affirming that they had transferred everything, they were dishonest about that. And they also say at the end here, count 38, false statements. Specifically, Waltin Nauda, they asked him a question. Are you aware of any boxes being brought to his home, his suite? He said no. Boom. They say that's a lie. All right. So to the best of your knowledge, you're saying those boxes that you brought onto the truck, first time you ever laid eyes on them was when employee 2 asked you to? He says, correct. Lie. I wish I could tell you. I don't know. I honestly don't know. They say you're a liar. So all of this underscores the fact that these were false. They say Nauda had observed the boxes and moved them to various locations. All brought by, there he is, Jack Smith, Special Counsel, United States District Court for the Department of Justice, Donald Trump's indictment out of Florida. And we are rebooting our locals feed because we have an extra long stream today. And so we're back on locals. But that is Donald Trump's indictment. 49 pages. You can see this is the cover sheet, which was drafted by Jay Bratt, the man who allegedly put a lot of pressure on Waltin Nauda. Now this goes over, you can see felony offenses not previously filed going to the Southern District of Florida. And as part of the cover sheet, they also give us a penalty sheet. For counts 1 to 31 in the case against Donald Trump, we've got mandatory and mandatory minimums that are not applicable for Trump, but our maximums are very high. Maximum time for counts 1 to 31, 10 years for all those counts. 10 years. Count 32, 20 years. Conspiracy to obstruct justice. The willful retention, all of the documents acting as different counts. Withholding a record, 20 years. Concealing a document, another 20 years. Concealing a document from the FBI, 20 years on count 35. Count 36, 5 years on that one. False representations, another 5 years. Now, Walt has other charges. Count 32, he's got some penalties that he'll be facing as well. But this is the Donald Trump indictment out of the United States District Court for the Southern District of Florida. Will be handled by Judge Aileen, which was a very favorable judge for Trump at the outset of this. When we were debating about the special master, she came out and had some very favorable rulings on our behalf that was explaining the DOJ is in fact corrupt, and she could see right through it. So we'll see where this goes. It is a very interesting indictment. There were some problematic texts, transcripts that we saw that were apparently from an audio recording that will be very curious to listen to. And I still think that this case is contingent upon the fact that they absolutely need to show that Donald Trump had no legal authority to be in possession of these documents, because that makes up the crux of their charges here. Every one of those documents that he was in possession for was a separate count. And they're acting on the premise as though the president doesn't have the ability to be in possession of those documents, or the former president doesn't have the ability to declassify them. And so Trump's team, of course, is going to be peeling this apart, and we will continue to cover it. We already know there are many allegations that the prosecutors in this case have been extremely corrupt, including Jay Bratt, one of the people who was heavily involved in the creation and the drafting of this indictment. And so we, of course, will continue to cover. Thank you very much for liking this video and sharing this with a friend. We look forward to seeing you when we come back and continue to cover the indictment. Now, we had one other story that is actually very appropriate on this, and it's that Trump's lawyers are already fighting back. Trump lawyers fight back now that he's been indicted. The defense has to start preparing, and one of their arguments is that the prosecution is entirely corrupt. This guy, Jay Bratt, who we know has been involved in anti-Trump prosecutions for a long time, now has a misconduct complaint filed against him by Trump's defense team. And the reason for the complaint is that this guy, Walt Naudo, who we now know has also been charged as a co-conspirator of Donald Trump, allegedly for moving boxes around. We know that he sat down with the prosecutors, and apparently during one of those meetings, the government threatened him with removing his ability to become a judge unless he cooperated with them. In fact, Jay Bratt was the person who allegedly put pressure on him. And so we've got some more stories on this. Jay Bratt, The Guardian tells us, now has a misconduct case filed against him. Lawyers said in a letter that prosecutors brought up his application to become a judge, Waltz. The lawyer for Trump's valet, under scrutiny in the Mar-a-Lago case, has submitted court papers describing a meeting at which top federal prosecutors brought up his application to be a judge when they tried to gain his cooperation last year. 3 people familiar with the matter say it, right? And now this guy didn't turn, and now this guy is bringing up this news. Valet, Walt Naudo. Now they charged him. You see how this works? Oh, you're not going to flip? Well, you're going to be another co-conspirator. Good luck. The allegation described in a letter filed under seal could affect the investigations. Now, prosecutors have already decided to bring charges, but this is still going to be a defense. Even though prosecutors have no control over the success of the judicial applications, the fact that it was raised in the context of trying to persuade a lawyer for a witness to recommend cooperating could give the appearance of coercion in one of the Justice Department's most high-profile cases. At issue is around November, when prosecutors were trying to gain the cooperation of the valet, Walt Nauta, who had been under scrutiny. Prosecutors were trying to get this guy too, saying he helped conceal classified records. He had already spoken to prosecutors when they called his lawyer, Stanley Woodward, and they summoned him to a meeting at the Justice Department headquarters for an urgent matter. They said, "We can't talk about this over the phone. We need you here." When they arrived at the conference room, Woodward, he was seated across from several prosecutors working on the investigation, including the Chief of Counterintelligence, Jay Bratt. He explained that they wanted Nauta to cooperate with the government against Trump. They said Nauta should cooperate with the government because he had given potentially conflicting testimony that could result in a false statements charge, which they did. And the prosecutor said, according to the letter, Woodward is said to have demurred, saying, "My client didn't make false statements. You guys are taking this out of context." But Bratt then turned to Woodward, the lawyer, and remarked, Bratt said, I didn't think that you, Woodward, was a Trump guy. I didn't think you were a Trump guy. I thought that you would actually do the right thing," before noting that he knew that Woodward, the lawyer, not Nauta, Woodward, he says, "Hey, lawyer, I know you submitted an application to be a judge at the Superior Court in D.C. I know what you've done. I know you're a lawyer. You'd like to be a judge one day, wouldn't you?" And Woodward's sitting here going, "Did you just threaten me? You're going to do something with my application if I don't turn my client for you?" Sick. These people are sick. That's not equal justice. Those are cheaters. The allegation, in essence, is that Bragg suggested Woodward's judicial application might be considered more favorably if the lawyer and his client cooperated against Trump. The letter was filed after Trump's lawyers submitted a motion on Monday seeking grand jury transcripts because they viewed this as potential misconduct. So what does the DOJ do? They charged him because now he's fighting back against this. The Justice Department characterization of the meeting is unclear. A spokesman wouldn't comment about it because they're cowards. Though a more innocent explanation for the exchange could be, for instance, that Bratt was just genuinely surprised to see the application and he raised it as an aside. Yeah, right. They say prosecutors regularly collect background information on lawyers. Yeah, including sending informants into their meetings. The extent of any impact on the case is unclear. Well, we know what the impact was. They charged him. They said, "This guy's calling us out." And they didn't like that at all. So Trump valet did not apply for the judgeship, but his lawyer did. And so his lawyer got criticized about that. And the lawyer is a reputable guy, right? This is Brand Woodward Law, a little bit more about him. And you can see he's got experience in many types of cases, handles high value employment litigation, teaches labor employment law as an adjunct professor, decades of experience, worked with many government and international clients, right? Been all over the place. And so he goes in there to have a simple conversation representing his client. And the lawyer for the government, the prosecutor, is just saying, "Hey, well, why don't you flip on us if you really want that judgeship position?" Corrupt cheaters through and through. And this is how it works. This is how they are playing now in the DOJ. And they might as well be campaign managers for Joe Biden. This is Ashley Moody, who is the Attorney General out of Florida.
The news broke, and for everyone, I think it felt less like the fair application of law and more like a recent installment of Game of Thrones. I mean, Merrick Garland could be the campaign manager for Joe Biden at this point.
Well, in just the 20 seconds we've got left, do you believe this indictment was politically motivated?
I think in order to make sure the American people understand or we have any hope of making sure the American people know that's not the case, we need to have an indictment that fully lays out and speaks to what they have.
All right, so that is Ashley Moody, the Attorney General for Florida, and we know that they are going hard. They are trying to take out the strongest candidate in the GOP field. They are engaging in all sorts of misconduct. We've got Jay Bratt, who allegedly, according to the lawyer, made very troubling comments about his future career. Unless you work with us, things are going to be pretty hard for you. We've got other stories of corruption. We have prosecutors asking Tim Parlatore, Trump's lawyers, very specific things about attorney-client privilege and saying, if you don't tell us this, that must mean you're lying, right? All sorts of stuff that would be deemed massively unethical if the defendant and the opposition were not Trump, but it is. So they say they can do whatever it is they want. Of course, they cannot. We will continue to cover this. We're going to chronicle all of the corruption, all of the malfeasance that is going to be emanating from the special counsel's office and the DOJ. And we will continue to cover, my friends, which is why I appreciate you subscribing and sharing this video with a friend so they can join us as this all unfolds. We'll be at the front of it. We look forward to seeing you on the next one. All right, my friends, that is it for us on the day. We had a surprise drop on the indictment, which was a good thing to go through. I'm glad that that hit. But we covered some good ground. We now know about misconduct. We now know what the charges are. We now know what the GOP had to say about this. A lot of reaction out there from the politicos. We know what the maximum penalty could be. We heard about the different charges and read through some of the statutes. And of course, Trump responded, and we've got ourselves a pretty good judge out there so far as we can tell, Judge Aileen Cannon. So we covered some very good ground today on this lovely Friday, and I'm grateful that you joined us. But now it's time to hear from you, and let's see what you have to say about this over from our friends on watchingthewatchers.locals.com and from YouTube and from Rumble and everywhere else. And today we've got a bunch of swear jar violations. I think we're pretty used to the swear jar violations over this last couple days, because, you know, it's just been very, very appropriate. And so first one in the house is from GDL MAL, says, for swearing on the stream some time ago. V caught me on YouTube. Well, thanks for zeroing out the balance for us there from GDL MAL. We had this one come in from Patrick Parker. What's up, Patrick? Gifting 5 membos in the house. Says, was gifted a member, CS 101's here. Irene Abbott's in the house. What About Me got a membo. Anthony got a membo. And Laura, all members now, courtesy of our friend Patrick Parker. Thank you, Patrick, for inviting these people. And hey, my friends on YouTube, don't forget to grab the Telegram link, because we are going to our after party right after the show. And so check out our Telegram link. And thank you very much, Patrick Parker, the man, for inviting in some new membos. We've also got, this one came in from Spirit of Admetos. Says, can you do a tutorial on your Mindmap software? Yeah, I could. I mean, I could. Yeah, I definitely could. I mean, I'm pretty fast at it. Let me tell you the other tool. So this tool is called MindMeister, is this software. You can grab a link at spotlightlawyer.com/mindmap right there. The other tool that I use is called ShareX, right? It's a screen clipping software. And what I've done with that is I have it programmed so there's hotkeys. So if I press Control-Shift-X, it does a screenshot. If I press Control-Shift-G, it does a GIF, right? And I can just like surgical with my clipping. And that's how I assemble the mind maps. So that's a rough tutorial. It's called ShareX. It's free. And the mind map tool is called MindMaster. You can get my link if you want to sign up using my link. You can go to spotlightlawyer.com/mindmap. And so, like, for example, if I watch this on the screen, Control-Shift-G, right? See this? Oh, wait, is it open? Maybe it's my software's not open, so it's not working right now. But when I have it open, I press Control-Shift-G, Control-Shift-X, and I can just start clipping like a maniac. It's a lot of fun. So we also had this one come in from Geegum. And yeah, I think we can. Well, we'll leave that for our after party. It's a good meme, but because Hunter's kind of naked, I think we'll save that for the after party. Geegum has a good meme. You should come join us for the after party. We'll save it. It's Hunter Biden in the underwear thing. I'm sure it's fine for YouTube, but we'll just be safe on it. But it's from Geegum. We'll save it for the after party. Any Hunter Biden half naked stuff, we'll just save it for the after party. Not that that's what we do in the after party, okay? But it's a good meme. Let me try something here. There's the meme. Here's the meme. Here's the meme. It says, goes to only show what fools they are. And it's called Crossing the Rubicon. And it's Joe Biden crossing the Rubicon, which is a giant river, and he's slipping into the river. And Merrick Garland's back over there. That's Christopher Wray. And if you look at the rest of the meme, it's half-naked Hunter doing his little pose, you know. So thank you, Geegum, for the meme. You'll have to join if you want to see the rest of it. Let's go. Brandon's in the house. Welcome to our shout-out supporter member. Big welcomes. You're going to get all the member-only morning streams, the Saturday show. We'll see you tomorrow on the Saturday show. Spuds is in the house. Says Mandela went to prison but was president, from Spuds. Well, I think if Trump goes into federal prison, he can exonerate himself. He can pardon himself and walk right out of there, which would be a lot of fun. Whoa, let's go. Brandon in the house, gifting 10 membos. That's a big one. Thank you for this one. This one came in from Let's Go Brandon. Who's here now? Brian C., Surdon Trip, Vanessa S., Tyranness S. is in the house. Keto in the Kitchen with Pat, probably a great YouTube channel if you're into keto. Chosen One is in. Mr. Null, Sup Forrest G., Fishfinder's in the house. Florence Dono, and Don Windham, all courtesy of our friend Let's Go Brandon in the house. Thank you, Let's Go Brandon. Super awesome that you're here. Hey, and your profile picture says Florida Man. So Florida Man, Let's Go Brandon in the house. Thank you very, very much. Naz Amar is here. Says it's all panic in D.C. Nancy's son, Paul Pelosi Jr., was on the board of Viscoil, a now dissolved Ukrainian energy company. Article and video on this via the San Francisco News. Yeah, and I think maybe that's why Romney was also in a little bit of a panic mode. Like, did you see his statement that we read through today? His statement about Trump was about Ukraine and about why we needed more resources for Ukraine. I'm going, what on earth? I thought his son, wasn't Romney's son also in the Ukrainian energy space? I think it was all of them. Like Nancy's kid, Joe's kid, Hunter was there. We have, I thought there was a fourth one. Romney's kid. Was it somebody else like Ryan's kid or something like that? Anyways, good to see you, Nazamar. Appreciate it. T. Miller says, if the docs are still classified, how are they allowed to talk about the contents of the documents in the indictment? For example, they talked about the doc about Iranian battle plans. Well, I filled in the gaps on that. I think it was Iran. I don't think the word Iran showed up in there. I put that in there, so that was my mistake. But the general concepts are still the same. I mean, they're saying that they're censoring it out. They're only providing enough information that doesn't implicate the actual details of the document. In other words, they're not providing us enough. Enough. That's from T. Miller. Thank you, T. Miller. We also had this one, Saintly Beginnings. Says the Biden DOJ DHS put Brockovich on the special interest terrorism list over her meeting with East Palestine, Ohio residents. Haven't seen any public reporting. I have not seen any public reporting about that either. I'm not real sure who Brockovich is, but that's interesting. For what? Special interest terrorism list? Gosh, it's going to be a lot of those. John, KX250 is here. Says, Rob, I'm not understanding something. If the grand jury is there to protect the common citizen, why is it acceptable to just blindly accept that indictments are given? Here's a little start to the transcript fund. Oh gosh, yeah. Thank you for that, KX. Yeah, we are gonna. Yeah, these are federal cases, so we're gonna have to do transcripts when this goes to trial. It's going to be some time, and I imagine it will go to trial. We'll see. Well, you know, I saw a very troubling statistic out there. Something like 99.6% of federal criminal trials end up in convictions, right? And I think it illustrates a much bigger point that the justice system is mostly just a rubber stamp in many ways. The grand jury is there to protect the common citizen. Why is it that they just blindly accept that indictments are given? Yeah, I mean, it happens all the time. Jurors, I think they're just, a lot of it's just formulaic. It's just a formality. Just to say, well, you got a fair trial by a jury of your peers, and they just laugh all the way back to the prosecutor's office. They're just laughing the whole time. It's like a joke, actually. Prosecutors who are out there, honestly, you know, screaming and shouting from the rooftops, and there are a lot of these people. I can't even tell you how annoying they are. They're out there just, you know, oh gosh, I'm making our streets safer. We're protecting our society and all this crap. It's like, give me a break. What are you working on? Urinating in public cases or something like that? Some drunk college kid was out on Mill Avenue and you're like thrilled that you're doing great work on that? Or like Old Town Scottsdale? Wow, you're saving America. Good job, prosecutors. Good job, DOJ, going after Donald Trump for the same types of crimes that Joe Biden is literally being investigated for right now. And there's a whole slew of things that are worse. Hillary Clinton, the FBI twisted themselves in a pretzel to not charge her. So if you just put, you know, this is why you hear the phrase, you could indict a ham sandwich. No doubt about it. So now there was another super chat that came in that's off topic, that came in at the start. But we put in a video yesterday about the fire satellite images. Prison Paul says, Rob, that story was inaccurate. He says that there is other accurate material on that story saying the date was wrong. All right, so a super chat says the date was wrong on that satellite video, wants me to correct the record. So I'm letting you know about that. Thank you. We also have another one from Twitter. Let's go say hello to Twitter. Oh yeah, John Kerry's stepson, Naz Amar. It is Christopher Hines, John Kerry's stepson. That's the one, Hines, right? That was 4 of them. I knew it was 4. Thank you, Naz, for that one. All right, and so let's take a look at what's going on over on Twitter. And here's what Twitter says for us. As we go through the news, we got some good stuff. Yeah. We got documents unsealed. Deplorable Fred's letting us know. Looks like Jim Jordan sent in a letter. Let's see what else we had. Here's what's going on over on Twitter. Deplorable Fred's in the house. Not sure if Americans really understand this precedent has and can start big problems in this country. I think you're right about that. So just to pull back on this for a minute, there's a great book by Ray Dalio called Principles of a Changing World Order. And he talks about the upward and downward trajectory of empires. And you have different stages that empires go through from birth to death. And there are 6 stages from birth to death. You have an upward ascendancy. So you go, you know, you're up on, you're on the rise, and then you go back down to the fall. And in the book, there are 6 stages of that cycle. And this has happened many times. The British Empire, many other empires, the Roman Empire, all of them, right? They all go up and down. And in those 6 stages, there are things that happen at each stage. In stage 3, you're sort of at the max productivity, max freedom, society is great. But then you start to descend back down. And at stage 6 is when the empire has basically failed. I'm pretty sure, and now in the book, Ray Dalio articulates that we are in stage 5. The reason being is because our internal division is so great, and the disparity, the internal conflict between the haves, the have-nots, the people who are in charge and the people who are not in charge, the power differentials are so great that we are now in stage 5 on that downward arc. Stage 6 is what happens when that division, when that political turmoil, when your shared values, when there's basically nothing to operate from anymore, when we can't even agree on gender, right? For example, how can we agree on economic policy? You can't. And when the country breaks down to such a point that there is actual, almost like warring factions at odds within the system, that is stage 6, and the empire is near the death. And I personally, from my perspective as a lawyer, I'm looking for the law, right? Other people are looking at different things. But when I see the Justice Department breaking down this way, as it has so quickly, to me, that is stage 6. We have entered that stage where even the Justice Department can't agree on historical precedent, and they have been so perverted that they are now prosecuting their political enemies in America. That is stage 6. It's not a hot civil war for most of us, but it is a hot civil war for a lot of us, right? Not shooting wars, but it is an attack from one side on another in the arena of politics that has never happened before. It's completely unprecedented. And they have crossed that line. They've crossed that Rubicon. So I would agree that we're in stage 5. I'm looking for indicia for things that would signal a stage 6. And I think the federal indictment of Trump is a major part of that, because it is the Justice Department. It involves the FBI. We know all of the other intelligence agencies were involved in this. And it's one side versus another. That is not a hot civil war, but it's a hot political war. It's a hot Justice Department war. It's a hot bureaucratic war. And it's happening right now. And the left is very excited about that for some reason. But I don't think they recognize, and if you read this book, all of this will make a lot more sense. I really recommend it. And if you can't read the book, there's a 45-minute video on this on YouTube, also a great video. However, the video doesn't go into stage 5 and stage 6 and give you all the details. The book does. It's a good book. And I agree with him. I've been watching our country slowly water down our civil liberties, all of our freedoms that made this country a stage 3 empire. And they're just slowly going down as the internal division, as the gaps between, you're stealing from me. No, you're stealing from me. No, I deserve this. No, the government needs to give me this. No, you're oppressing me and all this crap, right? The internal division is so great we can't even agree on the most basic of things anymore. But you were relying on the old institutions to keep it together, and to sort of right the ship. It's not happening anymore. They are openly prosecuting their political opponents with charges like 100+ years for same conduct, very similar conduct to all these other people. So it is the weaponization of the government. And I don't think it's stopping anytime soon. Wild Child says, Erin Brockovich is a single mom turned lawyer, went head-to-head with PGE defending people from getting cancer. They made a movie about her with Julia Roberts. Well, that sounds like a good one. That's good to know. That came in from Wild Child. So thank you for that one from Wild Child. Erin Brockovich. I don't think I've heard of her. Single mom turned lawyer, went head-to-head with Procter Gamble. Whew. It's a big... Sounds like a very brave woman. Sounds amazing. All right, thank you for the heads up on that one. And yeah, so Newsmind tells us the indictment was unsealed. House GOP reveals new information. I will save that one for later. CNN, yeah, had the audio. So this one was asked by Raven Madness, said, any questions, any thoughts on the CNN story? Yeah, I mean, it sounds like the transcript was in there. Albin says, yeah, join up in the after party. If you become a member, you can join on the after party. Jarbot says, this stuff doesn't even apply to the president. Says, under the Presidential Records Act, this is all civil. The DOJ is doing is asking a judge to criminalize a respondent for not signing or returning a divorce decree. Good comment there from Jarbot. Says, the Espionage Act predates the PRA. POTUS have always been allowed to possess and access all records from their time in office. The PRA only is institutionalized ownership and preservation of historically, publicly relevant records. Right. New lawyer has been appointed. Jim Trusty and John Rowley are out. Todd Blanche takes over. That's interesting. I like Jim Trusty. He says, for the purpose of fighting the greatest witch hunt of all time, now moving to the Florida courts, I will be represented by Todd Blanche and a firm to be named later. I want to thank Trusty and Rowley for their work, but they were up against a very dishonest, corrupt, evil, and sick group of people, the likes of which has not been seen before. We will be announcing additional lawyers in the coming days. When will Joe Biden be indicted for his many crimes against our nation? All right. And so good comments from our friends over on Twitter. And Trump's new lawyer is interesting. I don't know that there's much you can take away from that. His lawyers have been, almost compromised by the DOJ. Now, I don't know that Trusty has, but still, changing is not a bad thing. So that, my friends, is it for us on the day. Thank you for all the super chats that came in. I very much appreciate all the support today. And thank you for joining us. We are not done quite yet. We're going over to our after party. So if you are a member, come and hang out for a few minutes as we debrief the show and get some additional comments specifically from our most valued members. Watchingthewatchers.locals.com. If you're on YouTube, don't forget to grab the Telegram link. If you're a member on YouTube, go to the community section. You'll see the Telegram link. That's where you will join us. Also, don't forget to eat your Field of Greens, my friends. Field of Greens is where you can get nutritious fortified products, and you can save 15% off with code Robert when you check out. If you do want to dig into the mind map stuff, check it out, spotlightlawyer.com/mindmap. It's a great tool. I love it. I use it every day on the show, obviously. And you can get your free account, spotlightlawyer.com/mindmap. Big thanks to the mods who mod down the fort for us. Our friend Vientikis Prime, K Bean in the house, Just Cause, Playing Hooky, Ronnie. We got Zulus here, Beyond Geo Stars. We got Zach Nichols, John Allen, Janek 909, Dog Digger, and Donut Mind Me. And so I think that was it for us. Yeah, No Homie's over on Rumble. And No Homie says it's John Kerry's stepson, Hines. That's right. Yeah, that's right. John Kerry Hines. Hey, and Penny Whitbrought, also on Rumble, said Fox co-host Ainsley asks, is it worth it? My response would have been, oh, you're on this show because you're pretty, not smart. Bless your heart, is what Penny says. Penny Whitbrought's over on Rumble. And Penny, I know, has a channel. Penny Whitbrought's over there. So if you want to join up on Penny's channel, here's Penny's channel, Penny Whitbrought. Fox co-host, is it worth it? My response would have been, oh, you're on the show because you're pretty, not smart. Oh, bless your heart. That's funny. All right, so good to see you, Penny. And shout out to our friends over on Rumble. We've got, who was the first one here today? Slow Hand was in the house. Doxy Lover. Lil Old Me is over there. It says good morning from Arizona. We've got Alexandros Werewolf. We got In God's Hands. Wolverine's here. Member of the Public. Solthies over there. Well Donison. It's good to see everybody. All of our Rumble friends. Cars 10W. Salty Sarge is in the house. Lil Galaxy and One Corona. Good to see all of our friends over there. All right, and we got Donut Mind Me, Dog Digger, and our Meme Smiths. Big shout outs to our friend Sleepy Dog Lee, Geegum, and Nathan N810 in the house. Meme Smithin' down the fort for us, and we very much appreciate it. But that, my friends, is it for us on the day. We are going over to watchingthewatchers.locals.com, where we will hang out for a little bit. We'd love to see you there. But if not, we'll see you back here on Monday. Now, members, if you join as a member, we'll be back here tomorrow. But if not, if you're not a member, it's going to be a little bit of a break this weekend, and we'll see you back here on Monday because there will be a lot more to unpack. Trump might have a new legal team. We might see some more documents that were unsealed, and there will be a lot to attend to. And so I hope to see you here. I want to thank you for joining us this very busy week, this historic, monumental week that we had together. We're going to be okay. This is just part of the standard progression. We knew this was coming for a long time. Part of this is going to help expose just how corrupt and rotten many of these people are in the DOJ, and we're going to do our part to continue to uncover it. I appreciate you joining us as we do. for this weekend. Let's all unplug a little bit, get some fresh air, some sunshine, some vitamin D, get some good food, get some good family time in, recharge those battery levels, because we're going to be back here on Monday to do it all again. And we need to be fortified and well so that together with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Make it a beautiful weekend, my friends, and a beautiful night. I'll see you right back here on Monday. Bye-bye.